Chapter 2023. Sealing the Heavenly Daos. Sealing the energy of the Heavenly Daos. Borrowing the power of the constellations. A great sealing art was cast, casting a shadow over the full moon in the sky. After that, the moonlight gradually vanished. It was sealed. Yu Changkong inclined his head and stared at the sky as his evil eyes gleamed with a strange light. He didn't expect that Qin Wentian's Dao art had already reached such a tyrannical level. Qin Wentian directly borrowed the power of the constellations to seal the heavenly Daos, sealing the moon god's eyes. Qin Wentian's techniques could pierce through the heavens, directly reaching the astral river. This was the true might of a god king. I didn't expect that the first opponent I met in this life would be my greatest enemy. Yu Changkong coldly spoke. Qin Wentian was the first great enemy he met in this life. Before this, his enemies couldn't be considered much. Only Qin Wentian had humiliated him time and time again. After he awakened his second life, he initially thought that Qin Wentian would no longer be his opponent. But who would have thought that Qin Wentian was still his greatest enemy? Yu Changkong, you have committed too many evils and your sins are towering. You are a sinner. The cycle of the heavenly Daos will never tolerate you. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Heavenly Daos? Ha! Yu Changkong laughed uproariously. How ridiculous. The heavenly Daos are merely a power that we can control. What do we cultivators pursue? It's to control the heavenly Daos, transcending everything. The heavens and earth are mine to control. Why would we fear the cycle of the heavenly Daos? The battle today will be the ultimate battle in the supreme ancient immortal realms. It will determine the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms. When I take control of the supreme ancient immortal realms, and become the king of the supreme ancient immortal realms, I will become the incarnation of the heavenly Daos, and everyone will worship me. I won't play with you anymore. There's no meaning to a battle of wills. Since you already have the strength of a god king, let's enter the 9 heavenly layers and have a true battle. As the sound of Yu Changkong's voice faded, his gaze grew even more terrifying. His gaze pierced into Qin Wentian's eyes, actually breaking apart Qin Wentian's will, and entering the state of truth. After that, his body soared up into the sky. Qin Wentian glanced at Yu Changkong. His divine sense swept through the surroundings. After that, he stepped out and chased after Yu Changkong. Since Yu Changkong wanted to fight against him, he would naturally accompany him. If Yu Changkong stayed here, he would be a great threat to the people around him. Right now, Jun Mingchen and the others all had an advantage. His father Qin Yuanfeng could also fight against Che Ho. In that case, his main goal was to kill Yu Changkong. In a battle between god kings, he had to finish off one of them first before he could break the stalemate. The two of them transformed into 2 beams of light that shot upwards. In the starry sky, many people in the floating palaces looked at the 2 beams of light, silently praying in their hearts that Qin Wentian could win. The battle today concerned their life and death, as well as the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms. The 2 beams of light descended into the 9 heavenly layers. In the starry sky, there were many constellations revolving around them. The 2 of them were separated by an immense distance, and they stared at each other from afar. Yu Changkong's body suddenly grew incomparably gigantic, transforming into a giant. It was like his body was also a constellation. Behind Yu Changkong, there was a constellation. This constellation was extremely evil. It was a gigantic head that was extremely malevolent. It radiated a terrifying evil-attributed aura. Yu Changkong released his astral souls, fusing them together with the constellation. This constellation seemed to transform into his energy. Yu Changkong opened his mouth and drew in a deep breath. In an instant, countless heads appeared in the starry space as the astral light from the countless constellations in the surroundings all gathered towards those heads. They were all devoured by the constellations, absorbing the astral energy from the constellations for its own use. Qin Wentian also stood in front of a constellation. The astral gate in his sea of consciousness was like a starry sky. The astral light from the various constellations shot towards him. He who was bathed in boundless astral light radiated an incomparably holy aura. This was a true divinity, unexcelled in the world. The Tao of the Moon God has already become a part of me. Enjoy it well. Yu Changkong opened his mouth and spat out a breath. A moment later, the many heads spat out beams of Tao light at the same time. The beams of light from the countless constellations transformed into a Tao of destruction, wanting to destroy everything as they shot towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stared at the boundless Tao destruction energy shooting over. A majestic figure appeared behind him. This figure was a great Buddha. In an instant, the light from the many Buddha Tao constellations in the starry sky shot over. Qin Wentian seemed to have transformed from the Tao into a Buddha, giving birth to an indestructible golden body. His entire body shone resplendently, shining with a treasured light, resembling an indestructible divine body. Many beams of Tao destruction energy blasted onto the golden body, yet they had no way to break it. Yu Changkong was an evil cultivator and cultivated evil arts. His Tao was most suitable to be broken by the Tao of the Buddhist path, because Qin Wentian was releasing his Buddha Tao energy. The golden body isn't bad, but how long can it last? Yu Changkong coldly laughed. The constellations in the surroundings trembled as even more beams of Tao destruction energy blasted out. A crisp sound rang out from the golden body as cracks could be seen on it. The indestructible golden body would eventually shatter one day. At the same time Yu Changkong attacked, some of the evil constellations in the starry sky gave birth to terrifying devils. Their eyes traversed through space and entered Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. Qin Wentian saw many terrifying scenes. In the air below, his side was defeated. Princess Kitamura was cruelly killed by the Grand Devil Lord. After that, the Grand Devil Lord led the Western Paradise to slaughter his friends and family. He saw the women he loved the most appearing before his eyes. Qing and Qingcheng. Their bodies were covered in blood, and their clothes were disheveled. They were pleading to him for help. His heart involuntarily trembled as his Buddha body trembled. Evil methods. Qin Wentian knew that this wasn't real. Although it seemed as though everything was happening before his eyes, it was all an illusion. His heart was wavering. The Tao of the Buddhist path could suppress all evil. The golden body radiated boundless holy Buddhic light, purifying all evil in the world. Even if it was evil in one's heart, it would be purified as well. Those scenes shattered unceasingly as reality appeared. He saw many evil devils devouring his heart. In the air, countless Buddhic constellations radiated light, not being corroded by the evil in the world. When Yu Changkong saw that Qin Wentian's defense was impenetrable, his gaze grew even colder. Many constellations shot their beams of light towards him as numerous evil devils appeared. In the surrounding starry space, many terrifying heads appeared. All of them opened their bloody mouths, wanting to devour the constellations in the sky. These countless heads expanded unceasingly, sealing the space. After that, they actually moved towards the location where Qin Wentian was at, wanting to devour a constellation as well. This scene was simply terrifying. The evil heads that were even larger than constellations swallowed down, wanting to devour Qin Wentian's Buddhic body. The gigantic Buddha remained the same. Qin Wentian closed his eyes and was incomparably quiet, allowing the gigantic heads of darkness to devour his Buddha body. The surrounding space turned dark as he was devoured by the endless darkness. Many evil liquids flowed about, corroding the Buddha body, wanting to devour everything. However, the Buddhic light grew even more resplendent. The Buddha body continued to grow larger and larger, wanting to break through the darkness. Countless arms appeared on the Buddha body, resembling 1,000-armed Buddha. Each of the arms wielded a space-time sword of the Buddhist path, their light illuminating the past and present. Evil Slayer. A voice rang out. The millions of Buddha arms brandished their swords at the same time. Each sword was an Evil Slayer sword, a holy sword of the Buddhist path. Each sword contained the power of time and space, a fusion of the Buddhist Tao and the Tao of space-time. Each of the arms slashed out billions of space-time sword rivers. With millions of arms, how many swords could they slash out? In an instant, billions of beams of swords tore the darkness apart. Cracks appeared in the deep and boundless darkness, which was then torn apart bit by bit. Boundless holy light was imprinted on it, incomparably dazzling. In the next moment, the sword will erupted, and the huge devouring sky devourer's head exploded like a star being destroyed. The galaxy was turbulent, and many terrifying dark cracks appeared. There were beams of incomparably dazzling light in the 9 heavens. Even the people in the floating palaces below, and those who were fighting could see the phenomenon in the 9 heavens. This scene was too resplendent. It was like millions of beams of light erupted at the same time, wanting to sever the astral river. This sword should be Wentian's sword, right? Many of Qin Wentian's loved ones resided in the floating palaces. Qin Wentian was an evil cultivator, and only Qin Wentian would be able to slash out such a resplendent sword strike. Right now he was already at the God King level and could sever constellations with a single sword strike. Yu Changkong's devouring energy was destroyed. His aura fluctuated slightly as he stared at Qin Wentian's thousand-armed Buddha form. Golden light radiated from him, resembling a Buddha that could destroy all evil in the world. Qin Wentian had fused his space-time sword Dao with the Buddha Dao. Evil devils of the heavens. Yu Changkong's eyes were incomparably cold. The constellations of the evil devils seemed to be summoned. Numerous terrifying evil devils appeared in the air, standing in different locations. However, all of them were at the location where the Demon King Qin Wentian was at. Their eyes were filled with terror. Yu Changkong stood there like a true evil king. All the evil devils in the world listened to his commands. Chapter 2024. In the Heaven Vault. Astral light from the 9 heavenly layers cascaded down on the boundless starry space. It was resplendent and majestic. There were several battlefields in the Heaven Vault. All of them were so magnificent. The peak experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms were all gathered here, fighting at the peak. Qin Wentian and Yu Changkong fought in the 9 heavenly layers while Qin Yuanfeng and Cheho fought in the starry space. The soul battle between the Grand Devil Lord and Princess Kitamura. Although there wasn't too much of a commotion, the radiance from the two of them illuminated the boundless starry space. Princess Kitamura's radiance was pure and holy, while the Grand Devil Lord's radiance was darkness. Black lotuses appeared in the sky, one bright and one dark. The Grim Reaper and the heaven-devouring God King were in another battlefield. Their clashes shook the heavens and earth. But no matter how the crazy old freak attacked, he couldn't kill the heaven-devouring God King. These were all battles between God Kings. Even if there was a disparity between them and ancient God Kings, the disparity wouldn't be too great. Other than them, it was the deity-level battle between the various heavenly deities. That battlefield was the most chaotic, and the number of experts was the highest. Over 100 heavenly deities were participating. Almost all the heavenly deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms were gathered here. There would occasionally be heavenly deities dying. All of them were lofty characters who were famous for a period of time, but in this battlefield, ordinary heavenly deities were the most inconspicuous existences. After the Buddhas from the Western Paradise participated in this deity-level battle, although they managed to alleviate the deities of the various hegemonic powers, they still couldn't save the situation. Not long after, in this deity-level battle, the Heaven Vault side gradually revealed their dominance, gaining the upper hand. The deities of the Heaven Vault were simply too powerful. They weren't at an ordinary level. There was an old monster in the god-destroying palace. The old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect was able to deal with him, and the other powers like the 5 Elements sect also had trump cards. However, Qiyu, Qin Kursen and the others were more than enough to deal with them. In terms of number of heavenly deities, the Heaven Vault also had a crushing advantage. During these years, another batch of heavenly deities appeared. Mo Qingcheng, by Wuxia, Emperor Qianbian and the others were all heavenly deities. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying the number of heavenly deities in the Heaven Vault was. There were a few powerful Buddha lords from the Western Paradise who participated in the battle, and their strength was comparable to the hegemonic powers of the other hegemonic powers. In fact, there were even 2 Buddha lords whose strength was comparable to an old monster like the old Qiankuan sect leader. From this, one could see how deep their foundations were. However, after Jun Mingchen killed the prison god clan leader, he would deal with one of them while Little Rascal would deal with the other. Even for characters at the level of an old monster, they were no longer able to win against Jun Mingchen and Little Rascal. As for the other Buddha lords and sacred Buddhas, the Devil Hall lords of the myriad Devil Islands, Bai Qing, the 5 demon sovereigns and the other experts, They were no longer the same as they were in the past. This battlefield of deities could be said to be a scene that could shake the heavens and earth, causing ghosts and gods to weep. Blood rained down. The scene was extremely tragic. Jun Mengchen was currently fighting against a Buddha lord. He unleashed the Tao of the world, causing his might to shake the heavens. Although each of his attacks seemed ordinary, they contained the power of the world itself. When he unleashed his strongest attack, it was like the power of the world was infused into his body, capable of suppressing everything. Despite how strong the Buddha Lord was, he was still ruthlessly suppressed. If it wasn't for the Buddha Lord's powerful dharma, he would have long since been killed. In Little Rascal's battlefield, the eyes of the heaven-devouring giant beast were already red from killing. This was hatred. The Western world had killed his parents. From this, one could very well imagine how strong his anger was. He devoured the energy of the constellations in the sky, and his body was a heavenly Tao body that was indestructible and powerful to the extreme. His close combat attacks were unstoppable, and his Tao of devouring could cause his opponents to feel fear in their hearts. Even for Qing, she was much stronger compared to the first time they fought in the Heaven Vault. Her Tao art had reached the acme of perfection, allowing her to kill formlessly. Even her shadow was hard to catch. Bai Qing was also very strong. She was able to suppress her opponent. Old poisonous creature, you have chosen a path of no return, following Yu Changkong. Do you think he has your lives in his eyes? Even if he really won and seized the Heaven Vault, where would his future be? Following Yu Changkong, you would be on tenterhooks, not knowing how you died. Could it be that you are not clear what sort of character God King Gu is? At this moment, a voice rang out from another battlefield. The old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect was fighting against the old palace lord of the God Extermination Palace. The poisonous creatures in the air churned wildly. The old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect shone with universe light, isolating himself from the corrosive poison. Don't think about shaking my state of heart. The old palace lord of the God Extermination Palace was as skinny as a match. He stared at the old sect leader and spoke. What about you? I believe you were forced to choose a side, right? No matter what, Yu Changkong is someone who has the Tao of two God Kings. Qin Wentian won't be able to deal with him. In this battle, the Heaven Vault will be destroyed for sure. Can't you see it? Leaving aside the other battlefield, at the very least, you guys no longer have a chance in this battlefield. The old sect leader spoke again. The words of the two of them seemed to be mutually attacking each other. Indeed, this battle was extremely difficult for everyone. They have already chosen a side. Once their side lost, they knew very well what the consequences would be. They would be annihilation. But at the very least, in the battlefield of heavenly deities, the Qin Heavenly Divine sect had the advantage. Hence, the old sect leader had a psychological advantage. The eyes of the old poisonous creature gleamed with a crafty light. In truth, he already had the thought of retreating in his heart, because they might not be able to wait until the victor of the battle against Yu Changkong was determined. Not only for him, at this moment, many experts from the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms also wanted to retreat. If they continued fighting, they would all die here. At this moment, the sound of an intense collision rang out, shaking the heavens and earth. In the divine senses of many people, they saw boundless golden light radiating forth as a gigantic golden ancient Buddha exploded. The golden light radiated together with the light of the world, incomparably resplendent. However, this was because of the death of a Buddha Lord. That Buddha Lord transformed into a relic, wanting to use it to flee. However, how would Jun Mingchen give him the chance to do so? With a grab of his hand, his world energy directly grabbed the relic and crushed it. Let you guys reincarnate so that you can harm the masses again? Jun Mingchen coldly spoke. He hated these fake Buddhas of the Western paradise to the extreme. He wanted to kill them all. Only then would he be able to return a world of light to the Buddhist Tao. The Buddhist Tao of the supreme ancient immortal realms had to be completely overturned. The god monarchs of the universe region and the Western paradise have ruled the Western world for countless years. They have long caused the Buddhist Tao to become tainted. They could only destroy it and start anew. Not good. Many heavenly deities mused silently. Jun Mengchen killed that Buddha lord and turned to deal with the others, who would be able to contend against him. As expected, Jun Mengchen let out a long howl. He was like a dragon breaking free from its reins, directly punching towards a heavenly deity who was currently in combat. That heavenly deity hurriedly tried to block, but Jun Mengchen's fist contained a grand completion world Tao within it. With a single punch, that heavenly deity's soul was shattered. He didn't even have the time to scream. His divine sense enveloped the battlefield. When he saw a few heavenly deities dealing with Qing, and Mo Qingcheng, wanting to capture them first, rage flashed in his eyes. With a step he soared through the air, using his world Tao to lock down this area. Not long after, the corpses of a few heavenly deities could be seen on the battlefield. Jun Mengchen's battle naturally couldn't be hidden from the heavenly deities who were fighting. Those heavenly deities who invaded the heaven vault all felt a chill in their hearts. The God King level battles haven't ended yet, but their side already couldn't hold on any longer. They couldn't afford to drag this out. If this continued, the entire army would be wiped out, and they would all die here. Retreat. The old Empyrean of the God Extermination Palace was an old monster who has lived for countless years. When he saw that the situation was completely one-sided, he decisively gave the order to retreat. His entire body was engulfed by poison qi. The poison qi circulated rapidly in the air. It was very difficult to locate his location. Retreat. The few remaining heavenly deities of the God Extermination Palace all set up poison qi and retreated from the battlefield. When they saw this scene, the hearts of the heavenly deities in the battlefield instantly fell into chaos. The victor of the battle hasn't been decided yet, but the God Extermination Palace has already retreated. This meant that this deity-level battle has already ended prematurely. Vile creatures, even if you all retreat, after my Western Paradise unifies the supreme ancient immortal realms, who would be able to escape? A Buddhist cultivator from the Western Paradise roared in rage. You all need to be alive first. A cold voice rang out, ringing out in the hearts of everyone, causing many to feel their hearts trembling. They have cultivated for countless years. But today, would they have to die together with others? For the sake of Yu Changkong, or the ambition of the Western Paradise, it would still be fine if they could see a glimmer of hope for victory. But now, the battlefield was confusing, and the outcome was unknown. This battlefield had already collapsed. If they continued to fight, they might die. If they couldn't wait for the God King to decide the victor, then what were they waiting for? The heavenly deities who were originally at a disadvantage could very well imagine what kind of situation they would face. They would completely collapse and be hunted down. Hence, a vicious cycle ensued. The heavenly deities started to flee. All of them prepared to flee. Vile creatures. The Buddhist cultivators from the Western Paradise roared in rage. They wouldn't be able to escape. All of their fates were controlled by the Buddha sovereign. Kill them, don't spare them. Jun Mengchen's figure was like lightning as he chased after them. The eyes of the heavenly deities from the Qin heavenly divine sect flashed with coldness. Did they want to flee after being defeated? These experts had launched a war against the Heaven Vault twice, killing their way into the Heaven Vault. How could they let them off so easily? If they could spare one, they would kill one. The battle between heavenly deities transformed into an intense pursuit. The invading heavenly deities frenziedly fled for their lives. However, how could it be so easy for them to flee when facing the heavenly deities of the Qin heavenly divine sect? The vast majority of heavenly deities were forced to stay behind. They who had no heart to continue fighting became even weaker, and were easily killed. Very swiftly, the deity-level battle in this region seemed to be coming to an end. The Buddhist cultivators from the Western Paradise also couldn't hold on any longer. Little Rascal transformed into a gigantic beast and started a massacre. Under his sharp claws, countless heavenly deities died. In the starry space, divine blood flowed unceasingly. After a period of time, the intense deity-level battle finally ended. The battlefield in the starry space seemed to have regained its calm. However, the heavenly deities of the Qin heavenly divine sect understood that the true battle was far from over. What truly determined the fate of the Heaven Vault and the supreme ancient immortal realms was none other than the 4 battles in the starry space. A few managed to escape. Junmengchen spoke Junmengchen coldly. After that, he inclined his head and stared at the starry space. It's already not bad that we can obtain a complete victory here. Next, we will have to depend on Wentian and the others. Luoshan Chuan also stared at the starry space. Mo Qing, and the others stared at the resplendent 9 heavenly layers. Their beautiful eyes were filled with nervousness. They were even more nervous compared to their own battles. Chapter 2025. The 9 heavenly layers of astral rivers hung high up in the sky, boundless and boundless. The various heavenly deities were all bathed in the starlight. Although they obtained a complete victory in this deity-level battle, they weren't too excited. Qin Wentian fought for so many years for them to cultivate. Also, they could comprehend the Tao of constellations at any time in the heaven vault, creating an army of heavenly deities. The heavenly deities of the past also grew stronger. Under such an environment, if they still couldn't obtain victory in a deity-level battle, how would they have the face to meet Qin Wentian again? Victory in the deity-level battle was only natural. There was nothing to be happy about. Everyone understood that the battle between the 8 heavenly deities in the starry space was the true final battle. Under the starlight, the wind gusted by, fluttering Mo Qingqing's long hair. After she broke through to the heavenly deity realm, her aura grew even more outstanding. She was like a goddess from the 9 heavens, breathtaking beyond compare. Beside Mo Qingqing, Yi Qianyu, Luoshan Qianxue Qin Kursen, the southern phoenix matriarch, Namhuang Yunxi Nanfeng Xinga, Bai Qing and the other maidens were all so beautiful. They stood in different locations but their gazes were all staring at the same direction. Wentian Gij, you have to win no matter what. Bai Qing softly spoke, praying for Qin Wentian. She hated herself for not being able to participate in the battle of that level. She wouldn't be able to help her Qin Wentian Gij. I will. Qing Er's beautiful eyes were cold, staring at the starry space. Her white hair fluttered in the wind, but her gaze was filled with determination. Wentian will win. He promised me and elder sister Qing, that he would bring us to view the scenery of the supreme ancient immortal realms. A radiant smile appeared on Mo Qingqing's face. She firmly believed that Qin Wentian would be able to defeat his opponent. They have experienced so much suffering and passed through each hurdle. This would be the final battle. After the victor of this battle, the sky and the seas would be boundless. From now onwards, they would truly be able to roam freely in the supreme ancient immortal realms without any restrictions. They would view the scenery of the supreme ancient immortal realms together, roaming through every corner of the supreme ancient immortal realms, every mountain range, every river, slowly admiring the beautiful scenery. This was what Qin Wentian promised her. He would definitely accomplish it. Luoshan Qianxue glanced at the beautiful young woman beside her. She stretched out her hand and held Mo Qingqing's hand as she gently smiled. Naturally, if he dares to keep the appointment, I won't recognize him as my son anymore. Thank you, mother. Wentian also said that he would bring father and mother along with him. He said that ever since he reunited with father and mother, he spent most of his time cultivating, and had no time to truly accompany father and mother. He also said that he would make up for everything. After everything is over, our family should go out and enjoy the scenery of the world. Mo Qingqing smiled sweetly. All right. Luoshan Qianxue's eyes were a little wet. She nodded heavily as many thoughts of the future flashed through her mind. Everything was so beautiful. In truth, not only for Qin Wentian, she and Qin Yuanfeng had always been bearing pressure. First, it was the hatred of the Qin clan. After they exited the divine mausoleum and settled the grudge between them, they had to face the war of supremacy in the supreme ancient immortal realms. They had never truly had peace before. She also hoped for the day when they could be free from all restraints, tossing aside everything and enjoying the happiness of a family. But the prerequisite for all of this was that they had to win the battle in the air. Regardless of her son Qin Wentian's battle, or her husband Qin Yuanfeng's battle, their opponents were all extremely terrifying. One of them was the evilest god king out of the 8 god kings of the supreme ancient immortal realms. He even devoured the Tao of the moon god. As for the other, he was a human-shaped divine weapon born from the heavens and earth, controlling the Tao of chaos. At this moment, their hearts were all stretched taut as they silently prayed in their hearts. That last Yuhuang has to win as well. Luotian Qianxue glanced at Princess Kitamura's battlefield. Naturally, elder sister Yuhuang will definitely win. After everything ends, I will get Wentian to hold an even grander wedding ceremony to marry elder sister Yuhuang. Mo Qingqing gently smiled. She stared at Princess Kitamura's battlefield as she spoke of the beautiful future. How could she not understand Yuhuang's feelings for Wentian? During the first invasion of the supreme ancient immortal realms, it was Yuhuang who saved everyone and narrowly lost her life. Right now, she once again risked her life to fight. In addition, her opponent seemed to be the strongest existence in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The God King of the Universe region was a monster that even the three supreme experts couldn't kill. If they were the slightest bit careless, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. When everyone heard Mo Qingqing's gentle words, they felt their hearts being moved. All of them also gave their blessings, hoping that the lovers would be able to be together. Silly child. Luotian Qianxue tightened her grip on Mo Qingqing's hand. She softly spoke. Wentian is able to encounter such good women like you all. If he doesn't do well, how can he face all of you? The people at the side all felt many emotions in their hearts. Namhuang Yunxi, Namfeng Xinga and the others all felt their hearts softening. All of them were silently praying. Right now, they only hoped that Qin Wentian would be safe and return victorious. From then on, there would no longer be any trouble in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Elder brother will be fine. Luo Shenlei also had a radiant smile on her face. She stared at everyone. Why are all of you so tense? You guys have to believe in elder brother. How can he be defeated? Senior brother will be fine. Jun Mingchen nodded. Many people had relaxed expressions on their faces, but in truth, they were still filled with worry in their hearts. How could they be at ease? Such a battle would determine their fates. Their hearts had already flown into the boundless starry space, accompanying Qin Wentian and the others as they fought together. Above the sky, in the battlefield of the 9 heavenly layers, numerous evil devils surrounded Qin Wentian. Each of them was incomparably gigantic, resembling an evil god. Also, their forms were all different. There were powerful evil devils with 9 heads and many arms. There were also evil devils whose eyes gleamed with a towering blood-red light. There were also evil devils that radiated an aura that could corrode everything. These evil devils all seemed to contain different Daos, and each of them was extremely terrifying, possessing terrifying destructive might. And at this moment, Qin Wentian was surrounded by the evil devils. These devils were all summoned by Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong was like the king of all evil devils. Qin Wentian stared at the evil devils. The Buddhic light radiating from him grew even more intense. The holy light seemed to want to purify all evil in the world. However, at this moment, he saw the eyes of a pair of evil devils. In the next instant, many illusions appeared in his mind as he saw countless terrifying scenes. After he was killed by the evil devils, he saw the miserable state of his family and friends. They were all slaughtered. Their fates were extremely miserable. He saw Yuhuang suffering a fate worse than death. He saw the miserable fates of Qing, and Qingcheng. These scenes unceasingly gnawed away at his heart. This was also the thing he was most afraid of. Sometimes, death wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that as he died, there would be even more terrifying things waiting for him, waiting for his loved ones. This is the power of a heart devil, using illusions to summon my heart devil. Qin Wentian's heart was like a clear mirror. Buddhist chants rang out as the Buddhic light grew stronger, expelling the heart devil. What was a heart devil? If there was fear in a person's heart, there would naturally be a heart devil. What was the purpose of Qin Wentian's cultivation? It was because he wanted to be free and unfettered, so that his family wouldn't be threatened by others, so that they could roam freely in this world. What he was most afraid of wasn't his own death, but rather, the fate of his family after his death. The heart devil took advantage of this opportunity to affect his heart. Everyone would have a heart devil. The power of the evil devils was all-pervasive. Kill! Yu Changkong's eyes gleamed with a terrifying evil light. The evil devils in the air all acted, rushing towards Qin Wentian, taking the opportunity when Qin Wentian was being influenced by the heart devil to attack. Yu Changkong naturally understood that given Qin Wentian's current cultivation base, the heart devil would only be able to obstruct him for a short period of time. It was impossible for him to use the heart devil to completely deal with Qin Wentian. Only when the heart devil interfered with Qin Wentian would there be a chance to kill him. The evil devils in the air unleashed all sorts of evil arts, killing towards a single direction. The Buddhic light was corroded by the evil light. The sky was on the verge of exploding. When the boundless evil energy blasted into the gigantic golden body behind Qin Wentian, cracks appeared on it. Slash. Qin Wentian roared in rage. He closed his eyes and slashed out. His millions of arms slashed out resplendent beams of Buddhic sword light, transforming into a resplendent sword river. Each beam of sword light contained the Tao of spacetime, as well as the Buddhic arts of light that could purify everything. Many gigantic bodies of the evil devils were torn apart, but there were simply too many of them, and they were too strong. It was impossible to exterminate them all. That evil space seemed to have transformed into hell, buried in the starry space. Many evil ghosts and devils howled as a corrosive energy bore down on Qin Wentian's golden body, invading it bit by bit. Yu Changkong. Qin Wentian's silhouette was ice-cold. The golden Buddhic light around him faded away, turning incomparably black. His gigantic golden body actually transformed into a body of darkness in an instant. In an instant, devil might towered up into the sky, tyrannical to the extreme. This caused Yu Changkong to be stunned. Seems like it wasn't only the bald donkey from the Western paradise who had a body of Buddha and devil. Qin Wentian was actually one as well, instantly switching between them. Chapter 2026. Yu Changkong stared at the gigantic devil that appeared. This devil was like the king of 10,000 devils. Their attacks landed on his body, wanting to tear it apart. However, in the next instant, his devil body actually revived. It was like an undying body. If one wanted to kill him, they would have to completely destroy him, destroying both his body and soul. There were still powerful evil devils that used their heart devils to attack Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian inclined his head. His devil body was still growing larger. His eyes were pitch black, like a destructive abyss, with no end to it. From his mouth, a bone-chilling devil voice rang out. I'm originally a devil, why would I fear heart devils? As he spoke, a terrifying devil might engulfed the starry space. The gigantic bodies of the evil devils trembled as a formless Tao art seemed to be controlling everything. What Tao art is this? Yu Changkong frowned. Qin Wentian's devil Tao energy seemed to have a powerful controllability, causing the movements of the evil devils to slow down. His gaze was extremely evil, terrifying to the extreme. With a single glance, the evil devils trembled as they unleashed even more terrifying devil Tao arts. A gigantic spear of darkness pierced through the air, directly piercing through the souls of people. The gigantic black spear in the center seemed to be the spear of a ghost god, containing the might to break Taos. This Tao art was originally the power of the moon god, yet it was being unleashed by Qin Wentian. Other than the devil wielding the spear, there was also a headless gigantic devil wielding a blood-colored axe that cleaved apart the heavens. Even the astral river was about to be cleaved apart by that axe. This scene was too terrifying. Qin Wentian's devil form stood in the middle of all the evil devils as they frenziedly attacked him. Qin Wentian's gaze was as terrifying as ever. The darkness in his eyes enveloped the heavens, directly shooting into the eyes of some of the evil devils. Submit to me. A voice like that of a devil king rang out, causing the evil devils to tremble even more violently. Qin Wentian's devil form stretched out his hands and grabbed towards the sky. A supreme might manifested, able to dominate everything, causing all lives to submit. Boundless devil light cascaded down, landing on him. This was the light from the constellations of the devil path. Break! The devil let out a thunderous roar, causing the heavens to tremble and the astral river to shatter. The gigantic bodies of the devils trembled violently. The devil wielding the spear trembled as well. After that, the spear was devoured by a terrifying devil energy, shattering inch by inch. That devil energy then descended onto his body, grinding his gigantic body apart. The devil howled, but he couldn't defend against that power at all. The hand of the headless devil wielding the gigantic axe also stiffened. It was as though he couldn't hold the axe stably. After that, his arm shattered as a terrifying formless devil might tore apart his arm bit by bit. After that, his entire body was destroyed as well. All the devils in the air trembled and howled. The sky shook as boundless devil might gushed forth violently. The expression of Yu Changkong, who was controlling the devils, grew even more terrifying. What devil Dao energy was this? It was actually so powerful. From Qin Wentian's energy, he could sense devil might, as well as the power of spacetime. Spacetime contained the power of time, as well as the power of dimensional space. As for devil Dao energy, it was a tyrannical devil might that dominated all Daos. This caused Yu Changkong to recall a person, a supremely terrifying existence. That existence was once on the same level as the Grand Devil Lord, an extremely powerful Devil Lord. His title was the Devil Lord, but after that he vanished. It was rumored that his body transformed into a constellation, transcending everything. There were also people who said that he was killed by the Grand Devil Lord. In any case, he was an extremely ancient existence. If he was still alive, there would have been 9 God Kings in the supreme ancient immortal realms, and 2 God Kings of the Devil Path. But although he vanished, it was impossible for him to bring everything away with him. Maybe he left behind some inheritances in the world. At this moment, the power Qin Wentian unleashed seemed to contain some of his inheritances. Could it be that some of his inheritances were obtained by Qin Wentian? This Qin Wentian's luck was simply too good. He had so many inheritances on him. Right now he was proficient in the Daos of the heavens, space-time, Buddha, devil, sealing, and so on. It was like he was omnipotent and extremely difficult to deal with. That bald donkey from the Western Paradise returned after becoming much stronger. Who would have thought that he would also give Qin Wentian some time, allowing him to grow to a level where he could fight against God Kings. Qin Wentian's strength was comparable to ancient God Kings. I truly want to see how strong you are exactly. Yu Changkong's eyes were cold, filled with evil. His body transformed into boundless black fog that enveloped the sky. Even the astral light dimmed. The countless evil devils continued to rush towards Qin Wentian, but they were all destroyed by Qin Wentian. But at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared from the black fog, causing Qin Wentian's eyes to tremble. Little Yi. Qin Wentian's devil eyes trembled as he stared at the figure in the black fog. Many tentacles were grabbing onto Little Ye's arms and legs. Godfather, save me. Fan Ye's tears flowed like rain as she sobbed unceasingly. Godfather, save me. Impossible, this is an illusion Dao again. It's a heart devil. Qin Wentian's devil eyes were extremely terrifying. But even if this was an illusion, it was no different from reality. It was like a real scene. Godfather, Godfather. Little Yi screamed in a frenzy. The black fog transformed into sharp blades that pierced into her body bit by bit, and also pierced into Qin Wentian's heart. He had always felt that he had let down Little Yi, let down Fan Lo and Xian Xian. Now that he saw such a scene, one could very well imagine how much pain he felt in his heart. Back then, Little Yi was killed by Yu Changkong. Could she have survived using another method? Qin Wentian felt that there was a chance in his heart. Puchi. A beam of dark devil sword light slashed apart an astral river. Qin Wentian stepped out, entering the black fog. So what if this was an illusion? Even if he knew it was fake, he still had to enter. Little Yi, Godfather has let you down. Qin Wentian walked to the side of Fan Yi and stretched out his hand, wanting to touch her face. But at this moment, Fan Ye's body transformed into black fog and vanished. A look of pain flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. He wasn't shocked because he knew this was fake. But even so, he still wanted to stretch his hand out and touch that illusory body. The surrounding space was filled with countless devils. Darkness had already enveloped the entire world. Qin Wentian raised his head and saw that the sky was dark and devoid of light. It was as if he had walked right into a trap. He walked into the center of the black fog, where there were countless devils. You are courting death. Yu Changkong's face appeared in all directions, appearing everywhere. If one looked from the outside, they would see an incomparably gigantic head of evil. This head was the size of a constellation, and its eyes gleamed with a terrifying evil light. And right now, Qin Wentian was precisely inside this head. Over there. Below, the people in the starry space used their divine senses to sense that head. When they saw Qin Wentian entering it, all of them had worried looks on their faces. How could this be? Qin Wentian clearly knew that the head was fake. Why did he still want to enter? Was this his obsession? Could it be that he still couldn't let it go? However, they also knew that Qin Wentian was such a person. Sometimes he would let his emotions affect his decisions, disregarding the consequences. He had always been like this. Even though he was now a heavenly deity, comparable to god kings, he was still like this. He had never changed. Wentian. Mo Qingqing's smiling eyes flickered with tears. She was truly very worried and afraid. All of Qin Wentian's facade, including his relaxed smile, were all fake. I'll go and help senior brother. Jun Mingchen stepped out, flying towards the sky. Roar. Little rascal rushed out, wanting to go as well. Don't go. You guys won't be able to control the situation. It's better to leave it to Wentian. Trust him. Bai Wuya spoke softly. At this moment, they couldn't allow Qin Wentian to be distracted. Outside the heaven vault, at this moment, there were people who entered. Before this, during the battle outside, the Western Paradise descended. A single strike from them contained world-destroying might. Qin Wentian used an extremely tyrannical space-time, Dao art to teleport them away. After that, no one dared to get close to the battlefield, let alone enter the heaven vault. Although right now, the heaven vault was opened, and the heaven vault's entrance was destroyed. But at this moment, two people entered the battlefield. One was an old man, and the other was a young man. After they entered the heaven vault, they inclined their heads and stared at the sky. Can he win? The young man exuded a demonic aura as he asked. I don't know. The old man shook his head. He truly had no idea. A battle at this level has already surpassed his cultivation realm. This was what he hoped to see in the past. Qin Wentian has indeed grown to a level that surpassed him. Chapter 2027. In the boundless starry space, the gigantic demonic head trembled. This head resembled a demonic star. The eyes on the head gleamed with a terrifying light, causing people to feel fear in their hearts. Jun Mingchen's divine sense sensed the scene in the 9 heavenly layers. His body trembled, feeling some reluctance. Could it be that he couldn't help his senior brother at all? He had worked so hard in his cultivation, but was his strength still weak now? He was unwilling. In his mind, there was an extremely strong obsession. An obsession that he was unwilling to accept. What if something happened to senior brother Qin in this battle? Could he only sit here and wait for death? Could he watch as all his friends and family died? Could he watch as the entire supreme ancient immortal realms was ruled by the evil bald donkey and Yu Changkong? He, Jun Mingchen, was unwilling to see such a situation. He clenched his fists tightly, causing cracking sounds to ring out. His eyes were tightly shut as a look of struggle could be seen on his face. In the starry space, boundless astral light cascaded down on him. That majestic starry space was filled with boundless profoundness. At this moment, Jun Mingchen felt like he was in a truly boundless world. It felt like all the worlds in the world were cascading down on him. In this world, not only could he see the evil head constellation in the 9 heavenly layers, he could also see a few other battles. Qin Yuanfeng and Cheho were clashing violently. Everyone is working hard. Jun Mingchen silently mused. Qin Yuanfeng was proficient in the force of the 6 paths. The 6 paths were something he created himself, including Devour, Death, Samsara, Dimension, and other supreme Daos. When the force of the 6 paths was unleashed together, it transformed into a complete heavenly Dao. The force of the 6 paths clashed against Cheho's pseudo-chaos grand Dao. It wasn't inferior at all. Right now, the battle between the two of them grew increasingly violent. Cheho used the Dao of chaos to transform his attacks. Qin Yuanfeng used the 6 Daos to transform the world into chaos, transforming it into a space-time world. Such usage of Dao was simply terrifying to the extreme. When Jun Mengchen saw their battle, his divine sense seemed to want to infuse into it as well. He clenched his fists even tighter as the scenes of the battle unceasingly imprinted themselves into his mind. Space-time, primal chaos, devour, Buddha, devil. These Dao techniques were all extremely powerful Daos. They combined various types of energy, and through the cultivation of the people of the world, they evolved into countless Dao techniques. There were some ultimate Daos that possessed boundless power, but what about their origins? How did the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers appear? Constellations contain the power of the Dao, and when God Kings fought, their bodies were like constellations. In that case, could the constellations in the boundless starry space be the traces left behind by cultivators over the countless years? What Dao was the highest level? Was this a true ultimate Dao art? As the saying goes, chaos gives birth to the myriad of Daos. The world was born from chaos, and the Dao of chaos could develop the myriad of Daos in the world. Clearly it was an ultimate Dao. What about the world Dao he cultivated? Did the world represent the heaven and earth? Did the heaven and earth born from the primordial chaos represent this boundless world? Were they not part of the world? The Dao of the world was also the true ultimate Dao. Primal chaos could give birth to all Daos, so why couldn't the Dao of the world give birth to all Daos? Jun Mengchen seemed to have entered a wondrous state. It was like he was in an epiphany. His obsession was as intense as ever, giving him a huge motivation. The boundless starry space, the 9 heavenly layers, all the worlds were imprinted in his vision. What if his world Dao was compatible with the 9 heavenly layers? What did that mean? Did it mean that he could control the entire world with a single thought? Is this the transcendence that senior brother Qin mentioned before? In the past, his senior brother once said that cultivators were all comprehending the heavenly Daos. Through their comprehension, they would be able to control a trace of heavenly Dao energy and create their own Dao world. But in truth, the heavenly Dao they controlled could only control the area their energy could cover. For example, for the Dao of time, you could only control the flow of time in the area your Dao covered. This was similar to when the God King of the Western world used time reversal. The flow of time in that area was reversed, but the flow of time in the entire world remained the same. Hence, the Daos people in the world controlled were all minor heavenly Daos. If there was a day when one could truly control a major heavenly Dao, they would be able to control the Daos of the 9 heavenly layers. At that time, that would be a true transcendence. Although God Kings were heaven-defying, they still wouldn't be able to reach that step. At this moment, Jun Mengchen's mind spun unceasingly. Unknowingly, boundless astral light cascaded down on him. Even he himself didn't realize that the connection between him and the heaven vault grew closer and clearer. He could sense the details of the battle in the starry space. Those intense clashes were all imprinted in his vision. Maybe, this was also a manifestation of the world Dao. He watched the battle between Qin Yuanfeng and Che Ho. He seemed to have gained some insights and was about to sink into it. In addition, he could faintly sense that Qin Yuanfeng's cultivation base was extremely profound and in truth, he wasn't far away from breaking through to the next level. Right now, Qin Yuanfeng should be able to attempt to break through to a deeper level of comprehension. However, what was that level exactly? What sort of power would it have? How strong would it be exactly? Even Jun Mengchen had no idea. After all, after the heavenly deity realm, there was no longer a clear division of cultivation realms. Everyone was known as deities, they controlled the heavenly Daos, and were known as the deities of the heavenly deities. However, the disparity between the heavenly deities and heavenly deities was simply too great. The disparity between ordinary heavenly deities, peak stage heavenly deities like the sect leaders and palace lords of the various peak powers, as well as heavenly deities like the old sect leader of the Qiankuan sect, and even heavenly deities like Qin Yuanfeng and Che Ho. The disparity between them was simply too great. There was no way to surmount it. Every time they improved, their cultivation base could be said to have grown deeper. But as to what level, it was impossible to say. For example, Qin Wentian. After many years of accumulation, His cultivation base was already so deep that he could fight against God King level characters. This meant that he had unknowingly already reached that level. Uncle Qin. Junmingchen called out. Naturally, he didn't use his mouth but his will. Qin Yuanfeng, who was in the midst of battle, seemed to have sensed his will. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he inclined his head and glanced over. He could sense a mysterious energy. He could also tell who the owner of this voice was. It was none other than the brother of his son Qin Wentian, Junmingchen. Uncle Qin, the Six Paths force has already become complete in your hands. It's comparable to the complete Six Paths. However, I feel that it can still improve further and continue to evolve, transforming into a Six Daos world. Junmingchen's will rang out once more, causing Qin Yuanfeng's eyes to gleam with an incomparably resplendent light. The Six Paths force could continue to evolve, transforming into a Six Daos world? He cultivated for 2 lifetimes and spent many years in the Divine Mausoleum, comprehending the Tao of deities. He combined all his experiences and comprehensions, transforming them into the Six Paths force. He cultivated in the Divine Mausoleum for many years with no distractions in his heart. As the guardian of the Divine Mausoleum, he had to make a promise, but there were also restrictions. The master of the Divine Mausoleum, the Moon God, also gave him some benefits. He combined 6 different types of powerful Daos into the Six Paths force, allowing him to unleash incomparably tyrannical might. During these years, he had been trying to figure out how to evolve the Six Paths. How should he proceed? He had no way to understand. Cultivation was like this. Sometimes, if you can't figure it out, you would never be able to take the next step. But sometimes, with a sudden epiphany, you might be able to instantly transform. Junmingchen's reminder seemed to have triggered something, causing Qin Yuanfeng's heart to pound violently. But at this moment, Cheho was currently flying towards him. This time around, Cheho seemed to have grown even stronger. He used the Tao of Chaos to summon the energy of the heavens, manifesting a myriad of Daos in the world, wanting to annihilate all lives. This was an apocalyptic scene. World incinerating flames burned and Cheho was immersed within. Ignite! He roared. The world incinerating flames from Cheho fused into the countless divine weapons. For a period of time, the entire starry space turned golden, illuminated by the world incinerating flames. The golden divine flames could truly incinerate everything in the world. In addition to the power of the divine weapons, how strong would they be exactly? Six Paths, Six Paths, Six Paths world. Qin Yuanfeng repeated this in his heart. In just a short instant, it was unknown how many times he repeated this. His eyes were so calm and his hands were incomparably steady. Even in such a terrifying situation, he was still as calm as ever. Kill! Cheho waved his hand. A moment later, the golden divine flames erupted forth, illuminating the starry space. The countless divine weapons all shot towards Qin Yuanfeng. However, Qin Yuanfeng still stood there in a daze, as though he was about to be devoured by the golden divine flames. Yuanfeng. Luoshan Qianxue, who was paying attention to the battle over there, froze. Her heart seemed to have stopped beating. Father. Qin Kursen's beautiful eyes stiffened as she stared over. The boundless destructive force was about to devour Qin Yuanfeng. Cheho's lips finally curled up into a smile. His smile was still as cold as ever, like a machine. At this moment, Qin Yuanfeng acted. He punched out with his fist. The power of the Six Paths was like 6 azure dragons, rushing out in different directions, breaking through everything in the 6 directions. The Six Paths continued to extend outwards, rushing out of the chaos divine weapons. After that, the power of the Six Paths manifested and actually closed in from the outside. This entire space trembled violently as a miraculous transformation occurred, as though an unfathomable might was contained within. Break! At this moment, Qin Yuanfeng spoke. In the next instant, within the boundless chaos Tao, 6 different types of Tao might manifested. These 6 different types of Tao might seem to fuse into one, resonating with the great Tao, causing the heavens and earth to crumble. In this space, the true power of the Six Paths appeared, destroying everything as it gushed towards Cheho. How can this be? Cheho's eyes turned cold when he saw the attacks of the Chaos Dao being broken apart. He transformed into a beam of divine weapon light and wanted to rush out. But at the next moment his expression changed. This place seemed to have transformed into a world of the six paths. No matter how he tried, he couldn't exit. Refine. A cold voice rang out as the power of the six paths erupted forth. Cheho's body trembled violently. After that, countless faces actually appeared on his body. They were like countless souls. Chapter 2028. The World of the Six Daos. Below, everyone stared at the battlefield in the air as their hearts pounded violently. Qin Yuanfeng seemed to have broken through. After reaching the heavenly deity realm, breaking through wasn't as simple as breaking through in the past. But in truth, every breakthrough was a transformation of one's comprehension of the heavenly Daos. The strength of this transformation was definitely much harder compared to breaking through to the heavenly deity realm. At this moment, the six azure dragons transformed into a world of the six Daos. The power of the six Daos was like the power of the six great heavenly Daos. This world of the six Daos buried Cheho. In the past, Qin Yuanfeng had already fused the six Daos together. But now it was more complete, becoming a perfect entity. In the world of the six Daos, countless souls flew out from Cheho's body. These souls were all struggling frenziedly. After that, they either entered samsara, were devoured, or were destroyed by the dimension. In any case, all of them were destroyed by the six Daos. Are these the experts of the Che clan? There are too many of them. They are endless. It seems like the entire Che clan is filled with countless lives. The demon sovereign of the demon god mountain stared at the sky. There were too many souls. The world of the six Daos was like hell. All of these souls were actually born from Cheho's body. Right now, Cheho seemed to be in extreme pain. He was struggling frenziedly, but the energy in his body kept on weakening. As his soul continued to vanish, his Dao was stripped away bit by bit. After that, his divine weapons, divine formations, divine flames, all of them left his body. Gradually, Cheho no longer resembled a human. He was like a piece of primordial chaos. He had no corporeal body. A golden chaotic light flashed. As Cheho roared, the terrifying light was so blinding that it was hard for people to open their eyes. A beam of intense light flashed. In the next instant, the primordial chaos vanished. A human figure appeared there. This figure still had the appearance of Cheho, but he was now extremely weak. His aura fluctuated as he stared at everything before him. All of a sudden he laughed, his laughter filled with mockery. He was the true Cheho. The original Cheho, the clan leader of the Che clan. He was no longer the Cheho who seized the fortune of heaven and earth. Did I still fail in the end? I fused with the fortune of heaven and earth, gathering the strength of the Che clan. But in the end, the Che clan was destroyed and I died here as well. Cheho seemed to be mumbling to himself. His body gradually turned illusory as he disintegrated bit by bit. Finally, he completely vanished from the six Daos world. The powerful humanoid divine weapon, Cheho, was defeated in the battlefield of God Kings in the Heaven Vault and died. The six Daos world vanished. Qin Yuanfeng's gaze turned downwards, piercing through the boundless starry space, directly landing on Jun Mengchen. At this moment, Jun Mengchen's eyes were closed, as though he was still in a miraculous state. Qin Yuanfeng understood that Jun Mengchen was in a state of enlightenment. Before this, he already knew that this junior apprentice brother of his was extraordinary. Now it seems like Jun Mengchen had comprehended something. This awakening should allow Jun Mengchen to become even stronger. In addition, Jun Mengchen used his own insights to remind him, allowing him to undergo a transformation and kill Cheho. Otherwise, if the battle continued, no one would be able to do anything to the other. Naturally, although Jun Mengchen played a part in his breakthrough, it wasn't entirely because of him. At his current level, there was no one who could truly cause him to undergo a transformation with just a single sentence. In truth, it was because his own cultivation base was about to reach the same level. He was only a step away. This was especially so after the battle against Cheho. He directly faced the Tao of Chaos. That was also of some help to his cultivation. At the end, it was only because of a single sentence from Jun Mingchen that he managed to break through and become even stronger. Inclining his head, Qin Yuanfeng's silhouette flashed, moving like a meteor as he flew towards the battlefield in the starry space. His battle here has ended. However, there were still 3 more battles in the boundless starry space. Only by winning all of them would this ultimate battle of the supreme ancient immortal realms be considered a true victory. Right now it was still too early. When the people below saw Qin Yuanfeng flying towards Qin Wentian's battlefield, they couldn't help but to sweat in their hearts. Qin Wentian was still inside the evil head. They could only hope that he was fine. Very swiftly, Qin Yuanfeng also arrived above the 9 heavenly layers. He stood in front of the evil head and felt extremely tiny. It was like he was facing an evil constellation. This evil constellation contained an evil Dao art. Qin Yuanfeng's body instantly grew larger and larger, transforming into a towering battle god that was comparable to a constellation. He lifted his arm as the might of the 6 paths gushed forth. Just when he was about to attack, the demonic eyes on the evil head flashed with a red light, containing a Dao art that resembled the Dao of the moon god. In the next instant, Qin Yuanfeng fell into a great illusionscape. In this world that was as dark as blood, countless divine weapons and evil devils rushed towards him, wanting to trap him within. Kill. The might of the 6 paths gushed forth, shattering the evil devils. And as for Qin Wentian, who was inside the evil head, he was also facing a similar situation. In fact, it was even more terrifying. Qin Wentian was trapped within the evil head formed by Yu Changkong. In the world of the evil head, the world itself contained an evil Dao art. If ordinary heavenly deities were to be trapped here, their bodies would be corroded bit by bit and devoured by the evil devils. However, Qin Wentian transformed into a devil sovereign, killing all evil in the world, destroying everything. However, there seemed to be no end to the evil devils here. The corrosive power of the Daos seemed to be everywhere, wanting to exhaust him to death here. Qin Wentian's gaze was terrifying. He knew that he was trapped in the center of Yu Changkong's world of Dao arts. In here, he couldn't sense the constellations in the sky and had no way to borrow the power of the Daos of the heavens. In here, he also knew that he might be trapped in some sort of illusory world or heart devil. These evil devils he killed might not even exist, hence, he couldn't kill them all. However, he had no way to differentiate reality from illusion. In fact, one could say that there was no difference between reality and illusion in Yu Changkong's world of Dao arts. In such a battle, there seemed to be no chance of victory. The devil form Qin Wentian transformed into grew larger and larger, unceasingly slaughtering the evil devils. The Dao energy that could dominate everything was unleashed unceasingly, causing the sky to turn dark. But even after a long time, he still hadn't finished killing. He couldn't kill them all, he couldn't slay them all. Finally, the devil's energy seemed to be depleted and he gradually felt fatigued. He was struck by the attacks of the evil devils and the injuries on his gigantic body grew more and more numerous. Gradually he found it hard to endure any longer. However, Yu Changkong's true body still didn't appear. He wanted to slowly exhaust Qin Wentian to death. After a long time, the devil's arm was severed. Qin Wentian howled in rage, becoming more and more violent. His severed arm showed signs of regrowing, but before it could completely regrow, the other arm was severed as well. He let out howls of agony, appearing extremely miserable. His body was being destroyed unceasingly, being devoured, vanishing bit by bit. At this moment, an unparalleled ray of light shone in the darkness, striking down from the demon's head. At this moment, the darkness seemed to have quietened down. The gigantic devil body was split apart as a soul howl rang out. It seemed to be Qin Wentian's soul. Finally, has it ended? At this moment, an extremely evil voice rang out. From the darkness, a head flew over. This was none other than Yu Changkong's head. He was so evil, staring at Qin Wentian's soul. Qin Wentian, everything you have, I will inherit for you. Yu Changkong laughed evilly. His head moved towards Qin Wentian's soul. Qin Wentian's soul struggled, but a terrifying Dao energy was unleashed, able to directly extract everything from his soul. He had no way to escape. Many comprehensions flowed into Yu Changkong's mind. How comfortable. All of your comprehensions and memories will belong to me. As long as you die, I won't even kill your woman and will help you take care of her." Yu Changkong cackled sinisterly. He was enjoying this more and more, and there was even a look of intoxication on his face. Qin Wentian's soul was howling, struggling in pain. The more this was so, the more intoxicated Yu Changkong felt. He closed his eyes as a beautiful and intoxicated voice rang out. At this moment, a light sound rang out from the destroyed devil body. In the next instant, a supreme light flashed in the darkness, piercing through the darkness. The golden Buddha light and the dazzling light fused together as a figure descended from the void. That figure was so dazzling, incomparably divine. He wielded a pure and holy Buddha sword in his hand, transcending time and space as he slashed out with his sword. This sword strike was too fast, so fast that it surpassed time. Yu Changkong, who was intoxicated, suddenly opened his eyes. After that, when he saw that holy and dazzling figure, only a single thought appeared in his mind. This is impossible. That holy and dazzling figure was actually Qin Wentian's figure. In that case, who did he kill earlier? Who was the person he devoured? This definitely wasn't a fake illusion. He truly devoured the Tao, devoured the comprehensions, devoured the memories. That was the true soul of Qin Wentian. Only then would he be intoxicated and enjoy it so much. He tossed aside everything and didn't have any wariness at all. Since he had already won, why would he still be wary? That was the moment when he was the most relaxed. But at this moment, a sword like this appeared, descending from the heavens. Chapter 2029. Intense terror appeared on Yu Changkong's evil face. The sword light flashed as the evil face trembled and crumbled apart. All of the evil devils were destroyed, as if they had vanished into nothingness and no longer existed. At the same time, outside, the gigantic evil head that resembled a constellation was trembling madly. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out as the constellation exploded and collapsed. Boundless black fog enveloped the starry space before gradually dissipating. The evil eyes of the evil head had an expression of extreme agony on its face. Qin Yuanfeng's figure appeared in that space, but when he saw the scene before him, he was stunned. Earlier, he was trapped by the illusions, and just when he was preparing to break free, the heavenly Tao of illusions suddenly crumbled. After that, he saw the scene before him. A beam of sword light pierced through the darkness, shooting into the starry space. That sword light was too resplendent, holy and holy. It was definitely not an evil sword art. Clearly, this was Qin Wentian's sword. "Wentian," Qin Yuanfeng called out. Within the black fog, a resplendent light flashed, resembling a golden Buddha body that wielded a sword of light. This was none other than Qin Wentian. He slashed through the darkness and appeared before Qin Wentian. Before this, if it wasn't for little Yi, he wouldn't have been restricted by Yu Changkong when he rushed into the black fog and entered Yu Changkong's stomach. In there, he had no way to connect to the constellations in the sky, and was in an extremely passive state. He could only use extreme methods. Beside Qin Wentian's golden body, an illusory figure gradually manifested. This illusory figure was also Qin Wentian, but earlier, this was a devil body. It wasn't an illusion to deceive Yu Changkong, it was real. If it wasn't real, Yu Changkong might have seen through it. "Father!" Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as the two of them appeared beside Qin Yuanfeng. That black fog was still trembling, some of it gradually dissipated. However, there was still another black fog that actually condensed into Yu Changkong's face. He stared at Qin Wentian as his expression contorted. He coldly spoke, "You cheated. Didn't you use little Yi to trick me into your stomach?" Qin Wentian responded indifferently. "Any method was a kind of strength. How could I have overlooked your external incarnation? You actually have two bodies, one Buddha and one demon." Yu Changkong was filled with hatred. His carelessness this time would cause him to be consigned to eternal damnation. What about his ambitions? After so many years, he reincarnated and came back because he wanted to dominate the supreme ancient immortal realms and ascend to the peak of the heavenly Tao. If all of his hopes were to vanish because of this, how could he be willing? "I didn't expect that a single attack like this wouldn't kill you," Qin Wentian coldly spoke. He turned his gaze towards the constellation in the sky. Behind him, a gigantic shadow appeared. This shadow had a pair of terrifying eyes that stared at the black fog. Above the constellation, a beam of light cascaded down, enveloping the entire starry space. At this instant, the entire space seemed to be frozen. A terrifying spatial energy tore apart the black fog, wanting to completely kill Yu Changkong, pulling up the weeds at the roots. If Yu Changkong didn't die, he wouldn't be able to rest in peace. He also wouldn't be willing to accept this. He has yet to avenge little Yi. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. The formless black fog was torn apart. Yu Changkong's face appeared in different locations in the starry space, staring at Qin Wentian. Which body is your true body exactly? Both are my true bodies. I've long fused with my avatar. Qin Wentian calmly replied. After his true body fused with Tian's body, there was no such thing as a true body or an avatar. He could still split into two, but both of them would be his true body. Naturally, if he wanted to take away half of his soul, his strength would also be weakened. He wouldn't be able to fully possess the strength of his true body. In that case, wouldn't it be equivalent to having two bodies? In the starry space, the black fog unceasingly exploded. However, there were still countless strands of black fog fleeing in different directions. Some of the black fog transformed into terrifying spears or halberds of darkness, wanting to break free from Qin Wentian's control. Your life is truly tough. Qin Wentian's voice was cold. A sealing astral soul appeared behind him. In an instant, he activated the sealing astral energy from the constellations in the sky. With a single glance, boundless sealing light cascaded down, enveloping this boundlessly vast world. The escaping black fog was unceasingly sealed. Even if it had the power to break the Tao, it was still hard for it to break free from this Tao. Yu Changkong's life was truly tough enough. If it was any other heavenly deity, that attack earlier would have long dissipated their souls. However, Yu Changkong didn't die. In truth, back then when he devoured a heavenly deity from the Ziwei Divine Court, he had already lost his sense of self when he became a heavenly deity. He no longer had his original body and could only live as a parasite within the black fog. This black fog was an evil energy that was born from the lives of countless living beings. It existed everywhere and was boundless. He, Yu Changkong, was an undying existence. But even so, his carelessness earlier still caused him to suffer heavy injuries. He used the vast majority of his energy to devour Qin Wentian. At that time he was filled with excitement and fanaticism. But now he suffered a destructive attack. From this, one could imagine how terrifying the damage was. His injuries would only be worse compared to Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian's soul was almost devoured, but he still had another body. In addition, he had the undying scripture. The heaven-defying aspect of the undying scripture was that it was undying and indestructible. It had heaven-defying recovery abilities. At his current cultivation realm, his recovery abilities were even more terrifying. Hence, while he was fighting, he was constantly recovering. At this moment, Qin Yuanfeng also took a step forward and punched out. The force of the six paths was like a raging dragon emerging from the sea, sweeping through the starry space and directly devouring the black fog. Both father and son attacked at the same time, wanting to completely kill Yu Changkong. This man was too evil and too dangerous. If they could kill him, they definitely couldn't show any carelessness or mercy. When Mo Qingqing and the others saw the battle in the air, smiles could be seen in their eyes. Qin Wentian was fine now. He killed his way out and was working together with Qin Yuanfeng to kill Yu Changkong. They wanted to wipe out everything about Yu Changkong. Qin Yuanfeng was victorious. Right now, Qin Wentian's battle was also won. This caused them to see hope. Out of the 4 God King level battles, 2 of them had already won. In addition, Qin Yuanfeng was even stronger than before. Jun Mingchen also seemed to be in the midst of comprehension. If this continued, they would have an extremely high chance of winning this final battle. Only the Grim Reaper and the Heaven-Devouring God King, as well as Princess Kitamura and the Grand Devil Lord's battles were left. Even if they couldn't win, it would be sufficient as long as they continued to drag the battle. After Qin Wentian and Qin Yuanfeng killed Yu Changkong, They would rush over to these two battlefields and kill the remaining two God Kings together. Trash. At this moment, the Grand Devil Lord who was fighting against Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. Black lotuses enveloped the entire space, wanting to envelop the space where Princess Kitamura was at. At the same time, more black lotuses grew out from Princess Kitamura's body. The battle between the two of them had always been a battle of souls. But even so, the Grand Devil Lord was actually still paying attention to the other battlefields. The word trash was clearly referring to Yu Changkong and Che Ho. Back then when Yu Changkong came to the Western world and wanted to form an alliance to attack the Heaven Vault, the Grand Devil Lord agreed. But when they truly attacked the Heaven Vault, Yu Changkong and Che Ho had been watching from the sidelines and only acted after that. However, the Grand Devil Lord didn't mind. How could he not understand Yu Changkong's intentions? But he didn't care. He believed that Yu Changkong and Che Ho would still be useful to him. In this battle, they have already displayed their value. But now both sides were actually defeated so quickly. This made him very unhappy. You better worry about yourself. The imperishable Heaven Lord Shadow coldly spoke. Worry about myself? The Grand Devil Lord opened his eyes. His gigantic body radiated an incomparable might, unexcelled in the world. He stared at the imperishable Heaven Lord and spoke. Do you really think that you still have the strength to contend against me now? Do you think that I won't be able to kill you just because the Western world's army was annihilated? What a joke. The reason why I'm fighting against you is because... The Grand Devil Lord coldly spoke. After that, the Black Lotus in Princess Kitamura's body suddenly erupted forth with a soul-lacerating might. In an instant, countless Black Lotuses manifested, appearing in Princess Kitamura's soul, like they were planted. Behind Princess Kitamura, the wills of the imperishable Heaven Lord and the other heavenly deities frenziedly surged in, transmitting their energy to Princess Kitamura, resisting the corrosion of the Black Lotus. A wave of all-annihilation energy bore down on the Black Lotuses. But at this moment, the Black Lotuses transformed into humanoid forms. All of them actually transformed into figures of Qin Wentian. These figures seem to have been planted into Princess Kitamura's Tao heart. Princess Kitamura's soul trembled violently, she couldn't bear to act. This is a heart devil. He is the God King of the Western Paradise. His Buddhist arts are extremely powerful. Now that he has transformed into a devil, his ability to bewitch the hearts of others is extremely strong. Don't be bewitched by him. The imperishable Heaven Lord reminded. Princess Kitamura roared loudly. Her long hair fluttered in the wind as she slaughtered the figures of Qin Wentian. Blood flowed from Qin Wentian's body. Qin Wentian stared fixedly at her as he roared. Yu Huang, you want to kill me? Boundless voices rang out unceasingly in Princess Kitamura's soul, causing Princess Kitamura's Tao heart to go out of control. How could she kill Qin Wentian? How could this be? Fake. Everything was an illusion. She mustn't fall for it. Kill. Princess Kitamura's eyes suddenly turned extremely resolute. Her will was incomparably resolute, wanting to kill everything. Qin Wentian's figure seemed to flicker unceasingly. At this moment, a golden light radiated as the figures transformed into golden Buddhas, resembling undying Buddhas. Is this the true you? The God King of the Western Paradise? Princess Kitamura's heart turned cold. From the start of the battle, the God King of the Western Paradise had never truly appeared. Right now the figure that appeared in her soul, was it his true body? It's me. That figure admitted. I've always been here, I'm everywhere. It's just that you guys can't discover me. The reason why I kept fighting with you isn't because I truly can't kill you. It's because I want to obtain your soul Tao art. Right now in this world, there's no one who can stop me. Let alone you. Even if the imperishable Heaven Lord revives, she wouldn't be able to do so. Chapter 2030. He had always been there. He was everywhere. The God King of the Western Paradise was the most terrifying. Princess Kitamura's heart turned cold. She stared at the God King of the Western Paradise growing in her body. More and more of him appeared in her mind and soul. Buddha and devil voices rang out at the same time. Princess Kitamura's body trembled violently. The golden lotus and the black lotus seemed to have fused together, growing from her body, wanting to seize everything from her. Her beautiful face was also contorting. It was like she was about to transform into a female Buddha. No, Princess Kitamura howled. She felt that she was about to be controlled. Her control over her body was being seized. She might as well die. Her long hair fluttered in the wind. At this moment, Princess Kitamura was in extreme pain. The Grim Reaper howled and rushed towards her. However, the attacks of the heaven-devouring God King grew even more violent, not allowing him to leave the battlefield. Qin Wentian, who was currently fighting against Yu Changkong, noticed the battle over there. His heart trembled as he called out, "Yu Huang." As the sound of his voice faded, his eyes stared at the boundless starry space. In an instant, the light from many ceiling constellations shot down at the same time, cascading down on Princess Kitamura's body. An extremely tyrannical ceiling Tao rushed into Princess Kitamura's body. Qin Wentian had experienced this before. Once, the reincarnation Buddha had done this to him. He wanted to help Yu Huang break free from the reincarnation Buddha. The powerful Tao energy rushed into Princess Kitamura's soul. Qin Wentian also saw the figure of the Taoist monk. The two types of energy frenziedly ravaged Princess Kitamura's body, causing Princess Kitamura to be in extreme pain. Her will was on the verge of collapse. She had no way to persist. Her countenance paled as her body trembled. Her long hair fluttered wildly, causing the hearts of everyone who saw this scene to tremble. Yu Huang. Qin Wentian saw the pain Yu Huang was in. He gave up on killing Yu Changkong and traversed through space, appearing beside Princess Kitamura. His eyes directly landed on Princess Kitamura's body as terrifying Tao arts gushed in. At the same time, his soul energy also frenziedly gushed in. His palm imprinted on Princess Kitamura's body as all sorts of Tao arts invaded, destroying the Buddha image in Princess Kitamura's body. That Buddha image crumbled bit by bit, but it still had a smile on its face before vanishing. Pooh! Princess Kitamura coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her countenance was pale like paper. Numerous figures flew over. Qin Yuanfeng had also arrived, staring at the Devil Lord. A wave of black fog gushed over, and appeared beside the Grand Devil Lord, transforming into a gigantic face. This was none other than Yu Changkong. However, the Yu Changkong now no longer posed too much of a threat. The only truly powerful one was the God King of the Western Paradise. He was simply too powerful. Before this, he was actually concealing his strength. How is it? Qin Wentian supported Princess Kitamura's body. Princess Kitamura shook her head lightly, but her countenance was completely pale. The imperishable Heaven Lord behind her also turned somewhat illusory. She stared at the Grand Devil Lord and coldly spoke. "You are the God King of the Western Paradise. Buddha and Devil, you are the same person." The Grand Devil Lord had a cold smile on his face. He stared at the experts before him and spoke. "Back then, you once injured me. Could it be that you still don't understand the Tao I cultivate? I've already said it before, I'm everywhere. In order to seek transcendence, what I cultivate is the Tao of Anatta. In this world, I don't exist, but I'm everywhere. The Buddhas of the Western Paradise don't know who I am, but in truth, I've always been in the cycle of reincarnation, experiencing life after life. Any Buddha in the Western Paradise might be a part of my reincarnation cycle. I control the Buddhist Taos of the heavens, I'm omnipotent. However, I still have no way to transcend the 9 heavens. There are 9 astral rivers in the sky, enveloping all lives. I'm unwilling to accept this. I have to surpass them. Just cultivating the Buddhist Tao isn't enough. I need to cultivate the Taos of the heavens. God King Desolate can devour the energy of the constellations in the sky and comprehend the Taos of the heavens. Hence, his fate has already been determined. But in the battle in the past, I was actually injured by you. Your Tao also contains the true intent of the Taos of the heavens. That sort of soul Tao is extremely useful to me, and I want to control it. Hence, there was a battle today. If not, do you really think that a little lass like her can fight against me until now? Even if you returned at your peak and brought the deities of Azure Mystic with you, you still wouldn't be able to injure me like you did back then." The Grand Devil Lord arrogantly spoke. At this moment, He seemed to have changed, becoming unexcelled in the world. Qin Wentian, Qin Yuanfeng and the others all had heavy expressions on their faces. The God King of the Western Paradise was much stronger than they had imagined. He cultivated the Tao of Anatta. He didn't exist in the world, but he was everywhere. Right now, the Grand Devil Lord was none other than his incarnation. Gu, do you really think I don't know what you are thinking? But I don't care. I came to the Heaven Vault not only for the sake of conquering it. My true purpose is to make use of this ultimate battle at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms to transcend. If I don't succeed this time around, I'm afraid I would have to wait for another time. I've been waiting for this day for far too long. If it wasn't for this, I would have long since entered the world. I know the past and the future. I can foresee the fates of all lives. I can already see that the time for me to transcend has arrived. Hence I came here. He continued speaking. Every word he spoke caused the bodies of everyone to tremble. He knew the fates of all lives in the past and the future. He came to the Heaven Vault not because he wanted to conquer it, but because the time for him to transcend had arrived. He wanted to make use of this ultimate battle to transcend. If not, he would have long since entered the world. Gu, your fate has already been decided. Hand everything of yours to me and lend me a helping hand. Before this, I've already obtained the undying Tao. If I fuse the Tao of you and the moon god into it, I might truly be able to see the scenery of that step. Yu Changkong's eyes flashed with coldness. He turned his head and stared at the Grand Devil Lord. He had devoured countless people as nourishment. Now there was actually someone who wanted to treat him like this? A terrifying energy enveloped this starry space. The Grand Devil Lord naturally wouldn't be so polite to him. He knew that he had no choice but to agree even if he didn't want to. No matter who won this battle, the Grand Devil Lord wouldn't spare him. Right. Yu Changkong nodded. After that, he flew towards the Grand Devil Lord. Beams of devil light radiated from the Grand Devil Lord, gushing into Yu Changkong's body. But at this moment, Yu Changkong suddenly rushed towards the Grand Devil Lord's body, directly merging into it. A terrifying evil head appeared, enveloping the Grand Devil Lord. Even now, the Grand Devil Lord still wanted to resist, wanting to devour the Grand Devil Lord. An ant trying to shake a tree. The Grand Devil Lord coldly spoke. Yu Changkong's evil head continued to merge into the Grand Devil Lord's head. The two faces changed unceasingly. Sometimes it was Yu Changkong's face, sometimes it was the Grand Devil Lord's face. Merge into my body, and after you attain your Tao and transcend, you will also be able to see that unknown scenery. Why not? The Grand Devil Lord spoke in a light voice. He stretched out his hand again as a palm of darkness enveloped the sky, enveloping the body of the heaven-devouring God King who was fighting against the Grim Reaper. The heaven-devouring God King directly gave up on fighting and rushed into the Grand Devil Lord's palm, gradually merging into it and vanishing from sight. No, little rascal felt incomparable pain in his heart when he saw this scene. Although he knew that his father was already being controlled, when he saw that body, he still felt a trace of pain in his heart. But now, his father has completely vanished, devoured by that true devil. The Grim Reaper's expression was gloomy. He came to the side of Qin Wentian and the others. The four of them stood together. Qin Wentian, Qin Yuanfeng, Princess Kitamura and the Grim Reaper. But right now, all of their expressions were heavy. So it turned out that many things before were intentionally revealed by him. Most probably his injuries have long recovered. The Buddhist sect had the art of fate, and could faintly pry into heavenly secrets and fate. This God King of the Western Paradise said that the time for him to transcend has arrived. Did he really pry into heaven's will and foresee the future? The four of them stood together, but their expressions were unprecedentedly heavy. Right now, this supreme devil before their eyes, how many experts was he the fusion of? He was originally a God King of the Western Heaven Universe region. His body was that of the Grand Devil Lord, and he even devoured God King Desolate's energy. Earlier, he also obtained Yu Changkong's energy. Yu Changkong himself already had the power of God King Gu and the Moon God. This meant that right now, their opponent was a combination of 5 God Kings. Also, earlier, he even said that he obtained the imperishable Heaven Lord's soul energy. The current him, if he erupted with his true strength, how strong would he be? The Grand Devil Lord drew in a deep breath. His devil eyes landed on Qin Wentian. In the heavenly Tao I saw, you are also someone chosen by fate. I have always been waiting for you to grow. If I can capture you, I wouldn't be far from true transcendence. Now the time is finally ripe. Chapter 2031. The God King of the Universe region had cultivated for many lifetimes in the cycle of reincarnation, and comprehended the Taos of the Buddhist path. He cultivated the Tao of Anatta, seeking to be free and unrestrained. He was omnipresent in this world. What level was this? Transcending everything, the Lord of heaven and earth. He knew very well that at this level, wanting to advance a single step was as difficult as ascending the heavens. The Tao of God Kings was to be able to condense even more constellations and comprehend different Taos. At the end, they would be able to comprehend them and open up an unprecedented path. 9 astral souls, 9 attributes, comprehending the Tao. That was the Tao of heavenly deities. If one followed this path, they would be able to cultivate to the heavenly deity realm, and even get close to the God King realm. However, there was still an innate difference between heavenly deities and God Kings. For God Kings, which of them didn't rely on heaven-defying insights or good fortune to break free from the restraints of the 9 astral souls? The Grand Devil Lord controlled the Devil Tao. God King Desolate could devour the sun, moon and constellations, devouring the energy of the 9 heavenly layers. The imperishable Heaven Lord could create an astral river. As for Qin Wentian, he was even more terrifying. He had obtained the inheritance left behind by God King Shi, and was able to condense astral energy from the constellations. He understood that this was the direction of the ultimate great Tao. If one wanted to transcend the 9 heavenly layers, they first had to be able to control the power of the constellations. If not, if they couldn't even control the constellations, how could they even talk about transcending? He could already sense that the time for him to transcend was about to arrive. In addition, his insights were also close to transforming. He was very close to that step. This battle would be the ultimate battle of the supreme ancient immortal realms, his transcendence battle. If he missed this opportunity, it was unknown how many years he would have to wait for another chance. Boom! The Grand Devil Lord clenched his fists as a fearsome might gushed forth from him. His eyes seemed to contain the constellations in the sky, and when his gaze landed on everyone, the souls of Qin Wentian and the others trembled. If you guys are willing to submit and become a part of me, I can preserve a wisp of your will, and allow you to witness the scenery of the future. The Grand Devil Lord spoke. It was like he didn't have the 4 experts before him in his eyes at all. The heavenly Tao is never eternal and unchanging. Before transcending, no one can see everything in the future. You are unable to do so. If not, you wouldn't have been so heavily injured back then. The imperishable Heaven Lord spoke. The Grand Devil Lord coldly laughed, as expected of the imperishable Heaven Lord. Just like what you said, it's true that no one can foresee everything in the future. Even with my current cultivation realm, it's impossible for me to see everything. However, I cultivate the Tao of Fate and can still pry into some heavenly secrets. Then do you see our fate? Qin Yuanfeng calmly spoke. The Grand Devil Lord stared at Qin Yuanfeng as a cold smile appeared on his face. However, he didn't say anything. In the air above, countless beams of astral light suddenly shot down, landing on the Grand Devil Lord. Imperishable, my Tao is only a step away. Now that I've grasped your Inu Changkong's Taos, I've perfected them. Many thanks to the 2 of you. The Grand Devil Lord calmly spoke. He had just devoured Yu Changkong, but he actually said that he had grasped Yu Changkong's Tao. If this was said to others, it would simply be unbelievable. But for him, there was such a possibility. He has already reached an unfathomable level. It was impossible to predict how strong he was now. He has reincarnated many times, and has grasped the Buddhist Taos of the heavens. The Buddhist Taos were originally extremely mysterious and incomparably powerful. There was karma, reincarnation, and even the past and the future. Because it wasn't strange at all. His eyes stared at the boundless starry space only to see countless illusory silhouettes appearing at this moment. Each constellation had many illusory silhouettes. Their cultivation bases were of varying levels, old and young. They were like an endless number of living beings. Is this fate or karma? The Grim Reaper's eyes abruptly turned cold. There were countless constellations in the 9 heavenly layers, and each one of them was connected to a cultivator. There was a possibility that karma was born. Cultivators must have formed a connection with the constellations they were connected to. At this moment, countless constellations radiated their astral light downwards. These beams of astral light cascaded down towards the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, countless people inclined their heads. On the streets, an immortal foundation cultivator had a strange look on his face as he asked, "What's going on? I'm not cultivating. Why are the constellations radiating astral light? What's going on?" Someone at the side asked in shock. They glanced at the surroundings and to their shock, they discovered that many people encountered the same scene. They inclined their heads and stared at the 9 heavenly layers as their hearts pounded violently. Is the heavens going to change? Someone mumbled. It was rumored that in the heaven region, an ultimate battle was about to erupt. This battle might decide the future situation of the supreme ancient immortal realms. However, this was something only those experts with high cultivation bases and major powers would consider. It was still very far away from the masses. Even heavenly deities were too far away from them. But at this moment, was this phenomenon happening because of that ultimate battle? In the sky, boundless astral light cascaded down. It was like the 9 heavenly layers were collapsing. The astral light from the astral rivers flowed downwards, illuminating the entire world. But at this moment, the hearts of some people pounded violently. After that, their souls seemed to have left their bodies. Their consciousnesses flew up into the starry space, unceasingly flying upwards. They saw the majestic 9 heavenly layers, the supreme figure standing in the air, an incomparably divine Buddha currently fighting against the 4 great evil devils. These 4 great evil devils wanted to destroy the heavens while this divine Buddha was actually trying to save the people of the world. They needed to fight side by side with this Buddha. Only then would they be able to redeem everything. Such thoughts were directly planted in their minds, deeply rooted in their minds. They started to offer their strength, their faith, and even their own fates. Hence, in the sky above, on the battlefield in the starry space, boundless astral light was reflected back, unceasingly landing on the gigantic body of the Grand Devil Lord. The lives of the people of the world were connected, their fates were one. At this moment, what the Grand Devil Lord was doing wasn't merely the Western world's army, he was the true lives of the people of the world. Do you all think that you can resist? The Grand Devil Lord stared at Qin Wentian and the others as he spoke. Qin Wentian and the others all unleashed their auras to the extreme. Their countenances were unprecedentedly heavy. This battle would be the final one. And it would also be unprecedentedly dangerous because their opponent was truly close to transcending. Such a Tao was directly connected to the fates of the people of the world. It was simply too terrifying. Who else in this world would be able to stop him? Right now, to Qin Wentian and the others, this battle no longer concerned their life and death. For the sake of saving the lives of the people of the Western world, Hua Taishu sacrificed himself for his Tao. But who would have thought that his opponent would become even stronger? It's time to unify the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Grand Devil Lord calmly spoke. His body and face were changing. Sometimes his devil intent towered up into the sky, and sometimes his golden body shone with Buddhic light. Buddha and devil were one. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian and the others all felt an extremely powerful force directly boring into their souls. In the next instant, the fates of their souls seemed to be controlled by the Grand Devil Lord, extracted from their bodies. That power was too tyrannical. Qin Wentian's 2 bodies fused back into one, but he still felt a supreme power acting on his soul. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes stared fixedly at the Grand Devil Lord. She felt some regret. It was her battle with the Grand Devil Lord that allowed him to steal her power, becoming even more terrifying. She gathered the wills of the experts of ancient Azure Mystic, as well as the remnant soul energy, and launched an attack at the Grand Devil Lord. Two shadows appeared in the sky. One of them was Princess Kitamura, and the other was a blurry figure of a Buddha and devil. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. Princess Kitamura coughed out fresh blood. She who was already injured was heavily injured once more. The soul energy of the blurry figure transformed into a huge devouring mouth, wanting to devour Princess Kitamura's soul. At this moment, Qin Wentian's soul energy descended, transforming into a gigantic Buddha law body. After that, it transformed into a Tao attack. Boundless Buddhic spacetime sword slashed out, forcing the soul energy of the Grand Devil Lord to retreat. Only then did Princess Kitamura retreat. However, her originally pale countenance grew even more unsightly to behold as her aura grew weaker. You want to protect her? Who can you protect? The Buddha Devil God King of the Western Paradise coldly spoke. His eyes turned towards the direction where Mo Qingqing and the others were at. In an instant, boundless astral light cascaded down, resembling the light of fate. Mo Qingqing and the others all felt an irresistible might bearing down on them. Qin Wentian's expression turned extremely unsightly to behold. He spoke, "Let's leave." As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying space-time force enveloped the people around him. Time and space warped as they directly appeared at the location where Mo Qingqing and the others were. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky. His gaze was cold to the extreme. From the sky, constellations shot out beams of light that enveloped this space, obstructing the Tao attacks of the Grand Devil Lord. What should we do? Qin Wentian felt extremely anxious in his heart. The God King of the Western Paradise was simply too powerful. With a single thought, he could attack any location in the starry space. To the God King of the Western Paradise, there was no longer any distance between them. He borrowed the power of the countless constellations in the 9 heavenly layers, and his attacks could envelop the boundless world. In fact, he could even reach the surface of the supreme ancient immortal realms. How heaven-defying was this? If his attacks could envelop the entire supreme ancient immortal realms, this meant that he had truly transcended. This was also what God King she had always been pursuing. He wanted to transcend the 9 heavenly layers. Chapter 2032. Boom. The sky trembled as the starry space trembled. The boundless starlight from the 9 heavenly layers cascaded onto the body of the God King of the Western Paradise. His body was half Buddha and half devil. Buddha and devil alternated. His body continued to grow larger and larger, becoming even larger than constellations. He wanted to transform into a true giant, transcending all existences. The fates of the masses were all controlled by him. As his body continued to expand, his fingers grew to the size of a constellation. His eyes were like 2 resplendent constellations, and his legs were like the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. The countless constellations in the 9 heavenly layers surrounded him. Such a scene was simply too shocking to the hearts of others. In this constellation, not only was his gigantic body present, there was also the shadow of all lives. It was like the fate of everyone. At this moment, the scene in the 9 heavenly layers was projected down, appearing before the eyes of everyone in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The sun vanished, the world transformed into a world of starry space. In the boundless starry space, there was a figure that was like a king of the supreme ancient immortal realms, about to ascend to the throne. He only needed to destroy the people gathered here, and from then on, there would be no one in the supreme ancient immortal realms who could threaten him. The countless lives in the world all trembled at this moment. Naturally, many of them had their fates bound by the God King in the sky, being used by him. This seemed to be the ultimate goal of the Western world in the past, to gather the faith of everyone. But now, the ambition of the God King of the Western Paradise was even greater. In a beautiful mountain range, there was a lush green area. There were a few small houses built at the foot of a cliff. At this moment, there were 2 figures standing on the cliff. One was an old man, and the other was a woman. This woman was like a goddess from the 9 heavens, untainted by the mortal world. She was so beautiful that it was hard to find such a beautiful woman in the world. However, She chose to live in seclusion in the mountain range. What was even more terrifying was that not only was she beautiful, she was also powerful. She was at the heavenly deity realm, and could stand at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. But at this moment, this woman had a nervous expression on her face. She stared at the boundless starry space. The fate light cascading down from the heavens wanted to control her fate. But she was a heavenly deity. How could she be controlled so easily? She saw the Buddha devil figure standing in the 9 heavenly layers. He was so powerful, like an invincible existence. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to escape this calamity. Beside her, the old man softly spoke as he sighed. That young man with shocking talent was so powerful. He started from the world overlord realm, and overturned the various hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms, destroying the unexcelled Qin clan. But even so, he still couldn't escape his fate. A monster like the God King of the Western Paradise actually appeared. Who else would be able to defeat him? When the woman heard this voice, her eyes seemed to become even more worried. Her figure flashed and she wanted to leave, heading towards the starry sky. And I Shang, by the time you rush over, the battle would have already ended. Moreover, even if you go, you would only be throwing your life away. The elder shouted. He was precisely Chu Shen. Right now, the grandfather and grandson duo lived in seclusion here, not bothering themselves with the matters of the world. In the air, Goddess Nichang's body trembled. Was it too late? Her beautiful eyes stared at the boundless starry sky. Her heart seemed to be drifting there. Daosk City was not affected by the starlight. In this city, there was a sacred ground named Tiandao Sacred Academy. At this moment, in the airspace above the Tiandao Sacred Academy, many disciples of the Sacred Academy inclined their heads and stared at the sky, feeling incomparably shocked in their hearts. Was that the God King of the Western Paradise? At this time, who would be able to stop him? The God King of the supreme ancient immortal realms was already unstoppable. Would their senior brother Qin Wentian die? During these years, countless geniuses of the younger generations entered the Sacred Academy for cultivation. Many people respected this senior brother of theirs, Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian might be the disciple with the highest achievement in the history of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. My Sacred Academy still has a few other senior brothers in the Heaven Vault. Will the headmaster participate in the battle? Someone glanced at the peak of an ancient mountain in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Over there, Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy stood there, staring at the sky. At this moment, he didn't exude the aura of a supreme expert. Instead, he seemed very respectful and quietly stood behind a figure, performing the etiquette of a disciple. Headmaster most probably won't be able to win against the God King of the Western Paradise. He is too powerful now. I wonder if he would be able to fight against the God King of the Western Paradise. The gazes of many people landed on the white-robed figure, before Headmaster Yi. Right now, there were many legends about this white-robed young man circulating around the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Some people said that he was the founder of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, and was a true sage. He had already transcended everything and no longer cared about the matters of the mortal world. Even the headmaster was taught by him, and was incomparably respectful to him. It was very difficult to imagine what sort of existence he was. There were also people who said that he was the Lord of Fate, able to control the fates of everyone in the world. However, according to the opinion of many people, the legendary place of the Tiandao Sacred Academy was none other than the God King of the Western Paradise. Only by entering the legendary place would one be able to meet this legendary character. But now they personally saw it. Because of this supreme battle between the supreme experts of the world, the God King of the Western Paradise came out to personally spectate. At the peak of the mountain, the white-robed young man stood with his hands behind his back. His expression was so calm, there were no fluctuations at all. There was wind in the mountain, fluttering his white robes and black hair. That handsome face of his seemed to be someone who didn't belong to the mortal world. This God King of the Western Paradise is too evil. He actually wants to control the fates of everyone in the world, not caring about their lives. Before this, countless people in the Western world almost died because of him. Hua Taishu sacrificed himself for his Tao. Only then did they have a chance to enter the cycle of samsara. Headmaster Yi spoke. On the mountain peak, other than the wind, only his voice could be heard. The white-robed young man still stood there quietly like a statue. Right now, the God King of the Western Paradise is controlling the fate of everyone in the world, transforming into a heaven-defying existence. Most probably, that fellow Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to contend against him. Those few little fellows are all in danger inside. Seeing that the white-robed young man didn't reply, Headmaster Yi continued to speak, but there was still no reply. This caused Headmaster Yi to feel somewhat depressed. What do you want to say? The white-robed young man finally spoke. A trembling smile appeared on Headmaster Yi's face as he spoke in a light voice. Master, could it be that you really intend to watch on like this? Through countless years, you have followed me to many places. Everything in the world has its own rules. Could it be that you want to interfere every time you encounter a situation? The white-robed young man shook his head lightly. Master, I naturally understand this. As the saying goes, good and evil go hand in hand. There are people who have good and evil in them. Unless everything in the world is destroyed, they would never be able to break free from the cycle of good and evil. Headmaster Yi nodded, speechless in his heart. Since his master said this, it was clear that he already had his own plans. He couldn't guess his master's thoughts, but he couldn't change them either. If that fellow wins, I'm afraid the people in the world would suffer a calamity. Headmaster Yi sighed. If he wins, just kill him. The white-robed young man calmly spoke, causing Headmaster Yi's eyes to freeze. Below, the hearts of those who were eavesdropping on the conversation between the white-robed young man and Headmaster Yi trembled violently. Cough, cough. One of them violently coughed. His face was flushed red. He was frightened. He stared at the mountain peak and saw the white-robed young man quietly standing there. With him around, it was like everything in the world was nothing but a foil. When he spoke these words, he was so calm and indifferent, like this wasn't even worth mentioning. If he wins, just kill him. Kill the God King of the Western Paradise. This, Headmaster Yi also perspired. He wasn't so shocked, he only mumbled. Earlier, didn't Master say that everything in the world has its own rules? The white-robed young man turned his head and calmly glanced at Headmaster Yi. That calm gaze actually caused Headmaster Yi to have a feeling that his master seemed to be looking down on him. Did he say something wrong? Aren't the rules set by humans? The white-robed young man said something extremely simple. When Headmaster Yi saw the look of disdain in his master's eyes, he felt somewhat wronged. Didn't he get tricked by this old man? However, although this sentence couldn't be more simple, in this world, other than Headmaster Yi, who else would dare to say it so calmly? The rules of their conversation were the rules of order that contained everything in the world. Was it determined by man? Who could determine that? However, Headmaster Yi couldn't refute this because the person who said this was his master. In this world, no one was more qualified than him to say this. Headmaster Yi lowered his head in depression. He didn't speak anymore. In front of his master, it was better to be obedient. Hence, a strange scene appeared on the mountain peak. The legendary figure whom they revered as a god, the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, Headmaster Yi, who was already so old, was like a child who had been wronged. His head was lowered. That look was something that those in the Tiandao Sacred Academy, who saw it, would never be able to forget. And what they said earlier, was that a joke? However, given Headmaster Yi's status, he wouldn't make such a joke, right? Hence, at this moment, everyone in the Tiandao Sacred Academy was thinking, in their Tiandao Sacred Academy, what kind of person was this white-robed young man who never entered the world? Chapter 2033. A cold smile appeared on the face of the God King of the Western Paradise. His gigantic palm stretched out and grabbed towards a constellation. With a ferocious clench of his fist, that constellation actually disintegrated into dust in his palm. Those stellar martial cultivators who were connected to the constellation felt as though they were missing something. They could no longer sense the power of the constellation they were connected to. The God King of the Western Paradise seemed to enjoy this feeling very much. He laughed. Is this the feeling of boundless power? Even I didn't expect that I would be so strong. Many thanks for your help. Seems like I'm about to transcend soon. Qin Wentian and the others stared at that gigantic figure as their hearts trembled. With a clench of his hand, he directly destroyed a constellation. Such divine power could shake the heavens and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. He has truly reached an unfathomable realm. He was simply too powerful. Who could be his opponent? How can I break it? Qin Wentian seemed to be mumbling to himself. Everyone was thinking about this. How can they break it? Meng Chen comprehended it earlier and now, he is still immersed in that state, unwilling to come out. After being enlightened by him, my cultivation base has deepened. My 6 paths force transformed into 6 worlds, and I can also sense that Meng Chen is trying to control the various worlds. Wentian, since you can sense the power of the constellations in the sky, the method to break it must be within. Only by digging out all of your potential would we have a chance. Qin Yuanfeng's voice was heavy. The God King of the Western Paradise was so strong because he had fused the energy of the various God Kings into his own Tao, allowing him to sense the boundless power of the constellations. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. Another cold voice rang out. At this moment, in the eyes of the God King of the Western Paradise, everyone was like ants. He was about to transcend and everyone before him was like an ant. These people still wanted to obstruct him? They must be dreaming. He lifted his foot and stomped down towards Qin Wentian and the others. Right now he could cover the sky with a single hand, and his palms could directly crush constellations. What terrifying strength was this? Even if it was just a casual stomp, it was earth-shattering, wanting to trample on the heavens. Qin Wentian and the others only felt the sky blotting out the sun. That demonic foot stomped down, destroying all Daos. Qin Wentian's sealing power was directly destroyed. Rumbling sounds rang out. It was as though this stomp was enough to completely bury them. Space-time. Qin Wentian used his space-time Tao to envelop everyone. Space and time warped as they directly vanished and appeared on a floating palace. There were many of his loved ones and friends in this floating palace, and he naturally had to protect them well. If not, if the God King of the Western Paradise slammed down with a single palm, all of them would be annihilated. This was simply a path of death. Humph. A cold snort resounded through the heavens and earth. You want to protect my family? In this world, who could Qin Wentian protect? Right now, the fate of everyone was in his control. If he wanted someone to die, that person would die. If he wanted everyone to be annihilated, everyone would be annihilated. How could Qin Wentian save them? His palm grabbed towards the floating palace. However, he only saw Qin Wentian activating his supremely powerful spacetime, heavenly Tao energy. Astral light cascaded down. Qin Wentian and the floating palace both vanished together, appearing at an extremely far distance away. But to the God King of the Western Paradise, even if he was extremely far away, he could still see him with his eyes. Right now his body was incomparably large. If it was an ordinary heavenly deity, they most probably wouldn't be able to fly out of his palm. God King of the Western Paradise. At this moment Qin Wentian spoke. His voice rang through the starry space. That incomparably gigantic figure stared at him, filled with arrogance. This battle is a battle between you and me. If you can kill me, I will allow you to devour me and transform me into your strength, allowing you to pursue transcendence. But before this, don't harm the lives of the people around me. If not, even if I die, I will destroy everything, turning myself into dust. Even if I die, I won't leave behind any benefits for you. How about it? Qin Wentian spoke. Naive. The God King of the Western Paradise mocked. Do you really think you have the qualifications to discuss conditions with me? All of you are merely lowly ants. Regardless of heavenly deities or mortals, all of you are the same in my eyes. If I want to deal with you, do you think I will give you a chance to destroy everything? But since you said this, I will give you a chance. I won't deal with them and will kill all of you who participated in the battle first. If any of you dare to play tricks on me, after you all die, I will make the lives of the others suffer a fate worse than death. He agreed to Qin Wentian's conditions. Clearly, he had some reservations about Qin Wentian's words. This time, his purpose wasn't merely to kill Qin Wentian and the others. His ultimate goal of killing them was to pursue transcendence. Although he said he didn't care, he was still worried. If Qin Wentian and the others truly destroyed everything, affecting his transcendence, he didn't know when he would get another chance. Hence, he didn't mind killing these ant-like characters a little later. Right. Qin Wentian nodded. He unleashed his space-time Tao and shifted the floating palace to a faraway location. The God King of the Western Paradise calmly watched on. These people wouldn't be able to escape from his palm. He wasn't worried that Qin Wentian would play any tricks. Wentian. In the floating palace, countless familiar figures turned their gazes to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian stared at everyone. The battle today is unavoidable. If I die in battle, don't give up any chance to live. I've let you all down. I'm unable to protect everyone. I want to be together with you. Mo Qingqing spoke. Seal. Qin Wentian pointed his finger at Mo Qingqing. A powerful energy directly sealed her cultivation. After that, his eyes turned to Qing-er. Qing-er's silhouette flashed, wanting to use the Tao of space to leave. However, how could she be faster than Qin Wentian? Qin Wentian's gaze locked onto her. Qing-er's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian. Her hair was as white as snow. At this moment, tears flowed down her beautiful eyes that had always been cold. It was like their hearts were connected. At the instant Qin Wentian acted against Mo Qingqing, she already knew that Qin Wentian would imprison her. They understood each other too well. After that, Qin Wentian sealed Yi Qinyu as well. When he saw the beautiful eyes of the maidens staring at him, a smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face. He calmly spoke. If I die in battle and we meet again in the next life, I will still marry you all. After that, he turned his head and stared at Luotian Qianxue. Mother, you guys leave. If we die in battle, release the seal on them. Don't turn back. Don't give up any hope of survival. Qin Wentian was very clear that if they died in battle, the fates of everyone here would already be determined. However, he still had a trace of hope in his heart. He hoped that Mo Qingqing and Qing-er could fight for their lives. Even if there was only a sliver of hope, he wouldn't let it go. Silly child. Luotian Qianxue sighed. She knew what Qin Wentian, Qingqing and Qing-er had experienced. If Qin Wentian really died, would they be able to survive? But even so, Qin Wentian still did this. True love could transcend life and death, transcend logic. I want to participate in the battle as well. Jun Mingchen opened his eyes. His gaze was cold as he spoke. I'm still lacking. I hate that I can't have more time to comprehend. I feel that I've already entered a different realm, but it's too late. Good brother, let's live and die together. Qin Wentian stretched out his hand. Jun Mingchen also stretched his hand out, shaking hands with Jun Mingchen. The two of them traveled together. For this final battle, none of them were absent. Are you done? A cold voice rang out from the starry space. Qin Wentian turned his gaze over, staring at that gigantic figure. He then turned to Qin Yuanfeng. Father, your child has implicated you. You are my son. Qin Yuanfeng calmly spoke. Qin Wentian smiled but didn't say anything. Qin Wentian then turned his gaze to the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper calmly replied, This is the hatred of Azure Mystic. Qin Wentian didn't say anything more. In the end, he glanced at Princess Kitamura, only to see that Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes were also looking at him. Do you think that if I don't participate in the battle, the God King of the Western Paradise would spare me? Qin Wentian was speechless. Just like what Princess Kitamura has said, the God King of the Western Paradise originally coveted the imperishable Heaven Lord's strength. Now that Yu Huang was the inheritor of the imperishable Heaven Lord, how could the God King of the Western Paradise spare her? Clearly, Princess Kitamura had to participate in the battle. Let's go. Qin Wentian calmly smiled and stepped out into the starry space. Qin Yuanfeng released Luotian Qianxue's hand and smiled warmly at her. Now Wentian is indomitable. We have to be proud of him and do things according to his words. If we die in battle, you have to live well. Luotian Qianxue smiled and nodded. There was no sorrow in her heart. Everything was expressed without words. She had experienced such a situation of despair before. Now she experienced it again, and this time around her son was implicated as well. Would they be able to escape from this calamity? Qin Wentian, Princess Kitamura, Qin Yuanfeng, the Grim Reaper Jun Mengchen. Numerous figures walked out like they were preparing to die. They already stood at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms, but for this battle, they still couldn't see any hope. But even so, they still wanted to fight. This battle was for themselves, for their families, for the people of the world. In this battle, if they didn't kill their enemies, they would die in battle. At this moment, their backs were so imposing, so moving. Chapter 2034. Among the 5 experts, even for someone as strong as Little Rascal, he no longer had the qualifications to participate in this final battle. Jun Mengchen only gained the ability to participate after his transformation. But even so, no one had any hope for this battle. The people of the supreme ancient immortal realms were paying attention to this battle. They stared at the heavenly deity who stood tall in the starry space and truly understood the meaning of the word. Heavenly deity. This was a true deity, able to pluck the stars with a stretch of his hand. The God King of the Western Paradise saw Qin Wentian and the other 4 experts standing before him. His eyes that were as deep as the starry space flashed with a faint smile. After this battle, he would be able to transcend. He would soon be able to see the unknown scenery that was so close to him, within his reach. Everything can come to an end now. The God King of the Western Paradise spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, boundless astral light cascaded down on Qin Wentian and the other 4 experts. At the next moment, numerous gigantic figures appeared in their surroundings. There were Buddhas and evil devils. These gigantic figures contained terrifying Tao intents. It was unknown how many times stronger compared to the evil devils summoned by Yu Changkong earlier. Fate strip away. The God King of the Western Paradise coldly spoke. Qin Wentian and the others felt that their souls were no longer under their control. Their souls were trembling as the Tao of Fate descended. Their fates felt like they were about to be stripped away from their bodies and controlled by the God King of the Western Paradise. In the air, another fate-devouring head appeared. It opened its mouth and drew in a deep breath, causing the fate shadow on their bodies to fly towards its bloody mouth. Kill. Qin Wentian and the others resisted the power of their fates being stripped away. Space-time changed as they vanished from their original location and appeared before the gigantic figure. This space-time energy was unleashed by Qin Wentian. This was also the battle strategy they had discussed before. They wanted to directly kill the God King of the Western Paradise. If not, they wouldn't have any chance at all. The God King of the Western Paradise's body was too huge. This meant that they could attack him from any part of his body. The 5 experts appeared at different parts of the God King of the Western Paradise's body. Boundless astral light cascaded down. Qin Yuanfeng's 6 world fists blasted out. 6 azure dragons lacerated everything, attacking the gigantic figure. The Grim Reaper blasted out millions of death divine seals, wanting to take his life. Jun Mengchen's punch contained the power of worlds exploding unceasingly. Princess Kitamura's attack transformed into an astral river, transforming into an astral river divine formation. Qin Wentian's punch contained the might of the heavenly Tao. Millions of spacetime swords erupted forth, terrifying Dao of sealing. All attacks landed on the God King of the body. Such power, even God Kings would most probably be destroyed. However, the giant standing in the astral river was no ordinary God King. A terrifying devil Dao intent gushed forth from him. In an instant, the incomparably fearsome attacks seemed to be grafted onto the constellations in the sky, blasting towards the shadow of fate. After that, more and more shadows of fate were destroyed. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, there were countless people who died under this attack. It was impossible to imagine how many people died because of this. The Grand Devil Lords grafted Devil Dao in addition to the Buddha Sovereign's Fate Dao. The Grim Reaper's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. How could they still fight? They attacked the God King of the Western Paradise, but they ended up causing a great slaughter instead. Although this wasn't what they wanted to do, they only wanted to kill this devil before their eyes. However, this devil was actually using the lives of countless people to transfer his attacks, using the lives of countless people to make up for it. This was simply a calamity. Invincible. A voice rang out in the minds of everyone. Hua Taishu had already sacrificed himself for his Tao. Who else could break the God King of the Western Paradise? In addition, even if Hua Taishu didn't die, it would be extremely difficult to break the God King of the Western Paradise now. This was already different from before. He was much stronger now, and he was using the constellations in the sky to seize the lives of countless people. Freeze. A cold voice rang out. At this moment, everything in the astral river seemed to freeze. The 5 experts surrounded the God King of the Western Paradise, and were extremely close to each other. At such a close distance, the God King of the Western Paradise could unleash his Tao art to the extreme. At this moment, the entire space-time seemed to be controlled and stopped. However, Qin Wentian was still moving. He was also proficient in the Tao of space-time. He opened up his own Tao of space-time, and could resist the God King of the Western Paradise's control over space-time. Break. His space-time Tao also enveloped the other 4 experts, helping them to break free from the God King of the Western Paradise's control. But at the same time, black tentacles appeared on the God King of the Western Paradise, blotting out the sky and burying the boundless starry space. Also in this buried starry space, there was a dark liquid flowing about, causing Qin Wentian and the others to feel a terrifying corrosive and destructive energy. This dark space transformed into the river of death of the netherworld, engulfing everything, wanting to bury them within. We have to rush out. Jun Mingchen spoke. Follow me. Incomparably dazzling world light radiated from him as he soared up into the sky. The others followed behind him, and were enveloped by a world. The river of death could even corrode worlds. The world Tao around Jun Mingchen's body frenziedly exploded, opening up a path that allowed them to rush out of this darkness. However, what awaited them was a gigantic palm imprint of darkness that could destroy everything. Boom! As the strike landed, the world collapsed. Jun Mingchen and the other 4 experts were all flung through the air, their bodies flying past numerous constellations. This force was too powerful. Jun Mingchen was the first to bear the brunt of it. He groaned in misery as cracks appeared on his world divine body that was formed from glass light. The Buddhas and devils all rushed towards them. Qin Wentian and the others felt despair when they saw this scene. At this moment, Qin Wentian closed his eyes. Within the astral gate, the starry space radiated a dazzling light. It was like it could sense the 9 heavenly layers. Boundless astral light cascaded downwards as countless seal attribute astral energy, radiated a terrifying sealing light. This sealing light didn't shoot towards the Buddhas and devils. Instead, it shot towards the constellations in the surroundings, using the astral light to project onto the other constellations, sealing the constellations. When the sealing light projected onto another constellation, that constellation seemed to be sealed. Its energy could no longer be borrowed by the God King of the Western Paradise. The countless shadows on it also vanished. Clearly, the connection between it and the fates of many experts had been broken. It's useful. Princess Kitamura and the others saw this scene, but they were still too weak. It wasn't that Qin Wentian was weak. He was already strong enough. Borrowing the power of constellations to seal constellations. How terrifying was this power? But when compared to the God King of the Western Paradise directly borrowing the power of the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers, it was still too weak. There was no way for him to completely seal them. Protect senior brother Qin. Jun Mingchen spoke. He also formed a connection with the countless constellations. Boundless astral light cascaded onto him. His body was like a world of its own. He rushed towards a direction and punched out, opening up an ancient pathway, killing the Buddhas and devils. Qin Yuanfeng and the other 2 also stood in different locations in the airspace above Qin Wentian, fighting against the evil devils. These evil devils were too strong, many times stronger compared to the ones summoned by Yu Changkong. Princess Kitamura was the first to find it hard to endure. After all, her soul was already heavily injured. A powerful Buddhist palm imprint directly blasted into her body, causing her to be like duckweed in the wind as she coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. Upon seeing this scene, the Grim Reaper's silhouette flashed as he sped over. Princess Kitamura wasn't merely his successor, she was also his spiritual sustenance. Right now, the imperishable Heaven Lord had reappeared in the world through her body, courting death. The God King of the Western Paradise stared coldly at this scene, feeling a little disdain in his heart. Qin Wentian actually wanted to seal the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. This caused him to be somewhat surprised. However, it was clear that Qin Wentian didn't have that ability. I will deal with you first. The God King of the Western Paradise glanced at the Grim Reaper. His eyes were extremely terrifying, directly causing the Grim Reaper's body to freeze there. At the same time, the Grim Reaper's soul was being plundered. The Buddhas and devils behind him already arrived. A long spear of darkness directly pierced through the Grim Reaper's body. The terrifying corrosive energy devoured his life force. His fate was being stripped away bit by bit. He had no way to resist the tyrannical Tao energy. Teacher. Princess Kitamura called out loudly. But right now, she couldn't even protect herself. There was basically no way for her to save the Grim Reaper. Qin Wentian gave up on continuing to seal the constellations. Time flowed, and he directly appeared beside the Grim Reaper. Numerous terrifying dimensional black holes appeared around him. Those Buddhas and devils rushed over, destroying the dimensional black holes. Qin Wentian turned his head and roared in anger. His voice shook the sky, causing the bodies of those Buddhas and devils to shatter. This roar seemed to contain a Tao art that could be broken. He brought the Grim Reaper with him as he teleported. The God King of the Western Paradise coldly snorted and stretched out a hand. A moment later, the shadow of fate appeared around the Grim Reaper. It was like the Grim Reaper wasn't under his control. This caused Qin Wentian to halt as he stared fixedly at this scene. It's useless. I didn't expect that even this wouldn't be able to stop him. The Grim Reaper stared at Qin Wentian. Little fellow, you have already grown to a point where you are even stronger than me. The hope of Azure Mystic is also on you. No matter what, you must not lose this battle. Qin Wentian's heart turned cold. He called out, Teacher. A smile appeared in the Grim Reaper's eyes, feeling gratified. However, his body trembled even more violently. He who was heavily injured had no way to resist the corrosion of his opponent's Tao art. Also treat Yu Huang well. The Grim Reaper smiled. At this moment, Princess Kitamura's body also arrived here. The imperishable Heaven Lord's shadow floated to the side of the Grim Reaper. Tears could be seen in her eyes. Even someone as powerful as the imperishable Heaven Lord would cry. Don't cry. If you cry, you won't be beautiful anymore. The crazy old man revealed a smile. This was the most radiant smile he had ever shown in his life. We will definitely win this battle. The imperishable Heaven Lord turned her head and stared at Princess Kitamura. Yu Huang, are you willing to sacrifice yourself and offer your strength to Wentian? MHM. Princess Kitamura nodded without any hesitation. She inclined her head and stared at Qin Wentian. Her beautiful eyes filled with gentleness. There was basically no need to think about this. She was naturally willing. She didn't want to be like the imperishable Heaven Lord, watching the man she loved die in front of her. This scene was too tragic. She would rather die herself. Right. The imperishable Heaven Lord nodded. She stared at the Grim Reaper. Back then, we were inferior to the two of them, but we could still work together to defeat the God King of the Western Paradise. In that case, they would be able to do it today as well. MHM. The Grim Reaper nodded heavily, although they understood in their hearts that the hope was extremely minuscule. If not, they wouldn't have waited until now. However, they were still willing to believe. Chapter 2035. The imperishable Heaven Lord stared at the Grim Reaper. Her body trembled more and more violently. At this moment, a cold voice rang out. Are you still dreaming? As the sound of his voice faded, a supreme might bore down on him. The fate and soul of the Grim Reaper were stripped away as they flew towards the gigantic body of the God King of the Western Paradise. The God King of the Western Paradise opened his mouth and sucked the beam of light into his stomach. After that, he closed his starry eyes, as though he was enjoying this very much. The imperishable Heaven Lord didn't look over there. Her beautiful eyes turned to Yu Huang. I told you before about the true meaning of the death scripture. Do you still remember it? Princess Kitamura nodded with tears in her eyes. The death scripture says that only death can one transform into the Tao. The death scripture is about sacrifice. Its true meaning isn't to give life to the dead, or to control the bodies of others. It's about sacrificing oneself. Only death can one transform into the Tao. Hence it's named the death scripture. It complements the undying scripture. Only those who cultivate the undying scripture would be able to endure the Tao formed from death. Once your teacher and I joined forces. But now you have to be sacrificed. The imperishable Heaven Lord spoke softly. There was no joy or sorrow in her voice. This war concerned their lives, the lives of all lives in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Sacrifices were unavoidable. If Yu Huang sacrificed herself, she would vanish as well. She would completely vanish, never to exist again. Even if Yu Huang transformed into the Tao, this kind of sacrifice might not be able to defeat the God King of the Western Paradise. However, if they didn't choose to sacrifice themselves, there would be no suspense in this war. They would be killed one by one, completely wiped out. No. Qin Wentian's expression froze when he heard the conversation between the imperishable Heaven Lord and Princess Kitamura. He glanced at Princess Kitamura and shook his head. I definitely won't accept this. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flickered with tears. At this moment, when she looked at Qin Wentian, a smile could be seen in her eyes. It was like she had let go of her burdens and was already prepared to welcome death. Death wasn't terrifying. What was truly terrifying was having no hope. As long as Qin Wentian could win, what did her death count for? Wentian, someone has to be sacrificed. If we can obtain victory, what does my sacrifice count for? Don't forget, in this place there are not only the two of us. Princess Kitamura smiled brightly. At this moment, her tone was not cold at all, only gentle. Qin Wentian clenched his fists tightly. Logically speaking, he naturally understood that Yu Huang's words were right. If not, the imperishable Heaven Lord wouldn't have asked her to do this. However, he had no way to accept Yu Huang sacrificing herself. Look at them. Princess Kitamura stared in the direction of Mo Qingqing and Qing'er. Qin Wentian also stared in that direction. Over there were many friends and family. In the air, his father and Jun Mingchen were still fighting. If this continues, everyone will die. Is this the ending you want to see? Princess Kitamura was still smiling as she stared at Qin Wentian. At this moment, countless souls flowed into Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. Qin Wentian's heart was in agony as he struggled to resist that surge of power. Wentian, don't hesitate anymore. If you continue to hesitate, both of us won't be able to survive. I know you don't care about your own death, and would rather die together with me than to let me sacrifice myself. But this no longer concerns the lives of the two of us. Princess Kitamura's voice rang out in Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness. Countless souls flowed unceasingly into his sea of consciousness. Qin Wentian closed his eyes in agony. Just like what Princess Kitamura said, if there was only him, he would rather die together with Princess Kitamura than to let Yu Huang sacrifice herself in exchange for his life. However, not only the two of them were here, there was also his father, Mingchen, Qingqing, Qing'er, his mother, and the others. Hence, even if there was a trace of hope, he had to fight for it. In addition, even if I sacrifice myself, we might not be able to win. Maybe, the ending would still be the same. Yu Huang slowly spoke. Qin Wentian finally released everything, allowing Princess Kitamura's souls to flow into his own. After that, boundless astral light cascaded down, landing on the two of them. Uncle Qin, protect senior brother Qin. Jun Mingchen roared, using world energy to envelop this space, blocking the attacks from the starry space. Qin Yuanfeng also rushed over here. All of this was extremely clear in Qin Wentian's mind. Time. When Qin Wentian saw this scene, he activated the Tao of Time. In an instant, the flow of time around him changed. At this place, the flow of time was over 1,000 times faster. Princess Kitamura sat before him. At this moment, the smile on her face was so beautiful. It was like this was the happiest moment in her life. From now onwards, she would fuse as one with Qin Wentian, able to sense his life aura forever. From now on, she would become a part of him. Qin Wentian could sense that Princess Kitamura's soul energy enveloped the boundless starry space. At this moment, her soul energy entered his sea of consciousness, causing the starry space to be imprinted in his vision. Tao transformation. Princess Kitamura softly spoke. Her and the imperishable Heaven Lord's silhouettes started burning. Pure and flawless sacred flames landed on them, as the imperishable Heaven Lord soon vanished. As for Princess Kitamura, her body also grew more and more illusory, like she wanted to merge into the boundless starry space. At this moment, Qin Wentian felt that he could truly sense the countless constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. Also, the range of his senses was still expanding. This was the assistance of Princess Kitamura's soul energy, radiating out towards the 9 heavenly layers, frenziedly expanding. As for Princess Kitamura, her soul energy was also nearing the limit. This caused Qin Wentian to have an illusion that Princess Kitamura was extending her soul energy to the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers, causing it to expand unceasingly. Finally, a thunderous sound rang out from his soul. Qin Wentian's soul frenziedly trembled as though it was about to explode. A low-sounding roar rang out from his mouth. Countless souls, each wisp of his soul seemed to be exploding, being born and destroyed and reborn. No one knew what kind of pain Qin Wentian was enduring at this moment. It was like a boundless Tao was slicing away at his soul bit by bit, allowing it to regrow before it continued to be sliced away. Most probably, the cruelest torture in the world wouldn't be able to compare to this. He finally understood why only those who cultivated the undying scripture would be able to endure this. The undying scripture seemed to be born to endure the Tao transformation energy of the death scripture. It was like they were originally one and now, they were fusing together. Yu Huang. Qin Wentian cried out in agony. He saw Yu Huang's silhouette vanishing completely. In such a short period of time, he felt like he had experienced a few centuries. However, after experiencing the explosion of his soul, being born and destroyed, dying and reborn again, at this moment, he discovered that he could truly sense the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. This was different from before. In the past, he could sense each and every constellation in the 9 heavenly layers. But at this moment, he could sense them all at the same time. The constellations in his sea of consciousness seemed to be imprinted into his sea of consciousness. The astral gate in his sea of consciousness was like the incarnation of the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. His perception probed the 9 heavenly layers. He could faintly sense that Yu Huang's silhouette was there. It was like she had become a part of the starry space, existing everywhere. Once, the imperishable Heaven Lord should have done this as well. She sacrificed herself for her Tao and borrowed the power of the 9 heavenly layers to seal Azure Mystic, using a heaven-defying method to make Azure Mystic vanish from the face of the world, changing the heavens and earth. At this moment, not only did his soul grow incomparably powerful, he also seemed to have control over Yu Huang's Tao, the Tao of the imperishable Heaven Lord. Bang! A heaven-shaking explosion rang out. The barrier in the surroundings was completely destroyed. Jun Mengchen and Qin Yuanfeng were both flung through the air by the terrifying might. They retreated to Qin Wentian's side. Both of them were injured. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out. In the air, that gigantic figure descended from the 9 heavenly layers. He lowered his head and stared at them with cold disdain in his eyes. Only the 3 of them remained? Baiming Yu Huang and the imperishable Heaven Lord sacrificed themselves for Qin Wentian. Did they think that they would be able to deal with him? He was the fusion body of 5 God Kings. Right now, even the Grim Reaper had become a part of his body. How could the 2 of them fight against him in such a short period of time? Qin Wentian wasn't him. He didn't have many of his abilities. For example, he He was able to digest all the energy he obtained in an extremely short period of time. He was like the Tao of the Grim Reaper. His eyes stared down at the boundless starry space. Beams of death light shot out, instantly landing on Qin Wentian and the others. These beams of death light could annihilate all existences. How many layers of death energy could be stacked together? It was simply unimaginable. The expressions of Qin Yuanfeng and Jun Mingchen were extremely unsightly. In the end, they still couldn't escape their fate. During the process of their battle, they could deeply sense how powerful this figure was. It was too terrifying, simply invincible. At this moment, Qin Wentian inclined his head. His eyes were filled with boundless sorrow and desolation. In the sky, the countless constellations seemed to have sensed his sorrow. At this moment, many constellations radiated sealing light at the same time, landing in the starry space around them. Chapter 2036. Boundless sealing light transformed into a supreme Tao art, sealing this space-time. At this instant, the space Qin Wentian and the others were in was completely sealed. When the light of death rained down, it was slowly devoured by the sealing light. Yu Huang. Qin Wentian stared at the boundless starry space. Over there seemed to be Yu Huang's shadow. Her soul transformed into the Tao, merging into the 9 heavenly layers. Each and every constellation seemed to have her. At this moment, many scenes flashed through Qin Wentian's mind. The scenes of the past were all reverberating in his mind. He remembered the first time he met Yu Huang. It was in the city of ancient emperors. However, at that time, Yu Huang wasn't in her true form. She was like a beautiful female ghost. At that time, he felt that she was too beautiful and didn't seem to belong to the mortal world. It was only until he came to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom and saw her true body and learned that she was a princess of the lifelong immortal dynasty. The two of them had some conflicts and Yu Huang wanted to deal with him, but he resolved it. Naturally, they got to know each other because they roamed the supreme ancient immortal realms together. Under the arrangements of the crazy old freak, the two of them came to the upper world together and went to the Lifefire Palace of the lifelong realm. The moment they arrived, they immediately offended the Jialan monarch, causing him to become a bandit. Baiming Yu Huang was forced to stay in the Lifefire Emperor Palace, and in fact, she was half imprisoned. After that, Baiming Yu Huang was imprisoned in the lifelong Saint Hall. The lifelong realm lord actually wanted to marry Baiming Yu Huang, and Baiming Yu Huang agreed. All these bits and pieces, scenes of the past, as well as many details, flashed through his mind. At this moment, Qin Wentian was still immersed in his sorrow. In fact, he didn't even try to comprehend his own strength. Elder sister Yu Huang. In another location in the starry space, there were also many people crying. Mo Qingqing cried bitterly, her tears falling like rain. Her elder sister Yu Huang didn't ask for any status. She had always been deeply in love with Qin Wentian. Even when she died, it was all for the sake of Qin Wentian. In addition, she didn't ask for any status. Shi Qing'er and sister Qianyu's sacrifices had all been repaid. They have been together with Qin Wentian for many years, and were in love with each other. Only for her elder sister Yu Huang, she had nothing. Even the icy cold Qing'er had tears in her eyes. When Qin Wentian fought to the death, they didn't even cry. But now they were actually crying. Boom. The Dark North Immortal Emperor, Baiming Nongyue, and the others wanted to rush out, but they were stopped by Luoshan Qianxue and Luoshan Chuan. How could they let them send themselves to death? Is the heavenly Tao really so heartless? When Bai Wuya saw this, he let out a sigh. That devil didn't care about the lives of the common people, but he had invincible power. However, regardless of whether the heavenly Tao was heartless or not, the battle still continued. Tao annihilation. In the air, that incomparably gigantic figure's true body moved. He punched out, this fist that was even larger than a constellation directly slammed into the sealing barrier of light, wanting to destroy all Taos. Countless cracks appeared on the barrier of light before it shattered into pieces, releasing the seal. Roar! The 10,000 Buddhas bowed. A thunderous roar rang out as countless Buddhas appeared in the boundless starry space, all of them letting out roars of rage. With this roar, the lives of the common people suffered a calamity. Many people died. Qin Yuanfeng and Jun Mingchen both let out roars of agony. Their souls felt like they were about to collapse. Qin Wentian also felt his boundless soul energy being destroyed. That roar was like breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, unceasingly tearing apart the connection between him and the constellations in the sky. Wentian, pull yourself together. Qin Yuanfeng roared, his voice penetrating deep into the soul. Qin Wentian's body trembled. He stared at his father. At this moment, his father, who was like a war god, his aura fluctuated as his countenance paled. Once, when the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms invaded the heaven vault, his father borrowed the power of the Tao to descend and expel the deities of the supreme ancient immortal realms. How glorious was that! But now his opponent was simply too strong, so strong that he was invincible. He, father and son, together with Yu Huang and Jun Mingchen, weren't his opponent. Now Yu Huang died for the Tao, giving all her strength to him. His life no longer belonged to him. What qualifications did he have to continue feeling sad? There was only one thing he needed to do. He had to fight and destroy the God King of the Western Paradise. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out. Qin Wentian's body continued to grow larger and larger. Buddha, demon, and devil light shone on him as his body grew more and more tyrannically. Very swiftly, he transformed into a towering giant. He was the same as the God King of the Western Paradise. His body spanned across the astral river as countless constellations enveloped him, causing astral light to fill the sky. The two of them faced each other in the astral river. In Qin Wentian's eyes, a will to die could be seen. If he didn't kill the God King of the Western Paradise, only death awaited him. The people of the world stared at the two gigantic figures in the air as their hearts pounded madly. This was too terrifying. Was this the ultimate battle of the supreme ancient immortal realms? The victor of this battle would be conferred the title of God King of the supreme ancient immortal realms. No one in the world would be able to fight against him. Someone sighed. The people in the surroundings nodded. Whoever won would become a true God King of the supreme ancient immortal realms. The world would submit to them. They basically didn't need to use their sex to control the supreme ancient immortal realms, because a single word from them would be the law of the world. A single thought from them could cause calamity to befall the people of the world. With such power, would there still be a need for them to govern the supreme ancient immortal realms? The God King of the Western Paradise saw that Qin Wentian had transformed into a giant, but there was no worry in his eyes at all. Qin Wentian merely fused the power of two juniors, and they wanted to fight against him? How could it be so easy? 2 out of the 5 opponents had already died. Very soon, everything would end. Kill. A cold voice rang out. The Buddhas and devils in the air all rushed towards Qin Wentian's gigantic body. Each of them was proficient in different Daos, capable of annihilating everything. Their attacks all contained Dao annihilation arts. Qin Wentian coldly stared at his opponent. The boundless astral light in the air transformed into a supremely powerful divine formation. With him as the center, sealing light shot out, sealing the constellations in the air. If he wanted to kill the invincible God King of the Western Paradise, he had to break his connection with the people of the world, making him unable to borrow the power of faith from them to fight. Are you the only one who can summon them? Qin Wentian roared. Countless devils and demon gods descended from the starry space. For a period of time, countless deity-level demons, devils and Buddhas were born. The two of them created 2 armies that instantly clashed against each other. A deity-level battle erupted. For a period of time, the heavens and earth crumbled as the astral river trembled. Kill. Qin Wentian roared in rage. A gigantic space-time storm manifested in the astral river, wanting to kill all Buddhas and devils. He stepped out and soared through the air. His body was incomparably gigantic, but this didn't mean that his speed was slow. The Tao of space-time directly allowed him to appear before his opponent. With a lift of his hand, countless divine swords transformed into a space-time sword formation that blasted towards his opponent. At this instant, the entire astral river lit up with sword light. The boundless astral river was filled with a sword storm. The God King of the Western Paradise had a cold smile on his face. Qin Wentian wanted to shake him? In that case, let's clash then. A terrifying devil fist blasted out, shattering everything. This devil fist was like a black hole, frenziedly devouring the sword Daros in the air. At the same time, it also shattered all attacks. However, Qin Wentian didn't stop his attacks because of this. His sword pierced through spacetime and instantly increased in speed, causing space to distort under the might of his sword intent. Fist and sword collided. The astral river trembled, and there were constellations in the surroundings that were directly destroyed. Qin Wentian only felt a terrifying force rushing into his body. This was the power of the Grim Reaper. Qin Wentian's face turned black as his life force was about to stop circulating. However, the life energy in his body was also circulating frenziedly. He who was bathed in boundless astral light was rapidly expelling that power. As for the God King of the Western Paradise, he was completely fine. Behind him, the countless shadows shattered. Each shadow represented the life of a person. The God King of the Western Paradise suffered from this attack, causing the lives of all living beings to be destroyed. As expected, if I don't break his Tao, I won't be able to kill him. All living beings in the world will suffer a calamity. Qin Wentian's gaze was extremely cold. It was still the same. No matter how strong his attacks were, it was useless. With a flash of his silhouette, Qin Wentian stood in the boundless starry space, using his heaven-defying Tao of sealing to unceasingly seal constellations. However, it was clear that his Tao didn't have the ability to instantly seal the constellations. Although his speed was already extremely fast, it seemed that he was still too late. The God King of the Western Paradise wouldn't stop killing him. You really make me feel surprised. The God King of the Western Paradise's gigantic eyes stared at Qin Wentian. Seems like the hope of transcendence lies on you. Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura were both people from this generation. It was unknown how many years later they started cultivating compared to him. They were merely the successors of his former opponents. But when Princess Kitamura's energy landed on Qin Wentian, he was actually able to unleash such powerful combat prowess. Only he could do this. Only he alone could sense the constellations in the sky and borrow their power to fight. As the God King of the Western Paradise's voice rang out, he launched another attack towards Qin Wentian. In addition, Qin Wentian couldn't even dodge because Qin Yuanfeng and Jun Mengchen were still behind him. Boundless darkness lotuses appeared in Qin Wentian's soul. There was also the Tao of fate affecting Qin Wentian. Countless Buddhas and devils rushed over. That gigantic body of the God King of the Western Paradise also blasted out fiend god fists, using all sorts of Tao arts to attack Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian used all sorts of innate techniques to block. Every time he blocked, the countless shadows behind the God King of the Western Paradise would vanish. Qin Wentian himself was safe and sound. As for Qin Wentian, he didn't even dare to use his full strength to counterattack. Because if he counterattacked, he would kill the lives of the people. Despicable. Jun Mengchen cursed in rage. This devil wanted to use the lives of the people to fight against him, causing his senior brother to be restricted. In addition, his senior brother couldn't bear to harm the lives of the people. But even so, every time he counterattacked, many people would die. Qin Wentian was attacked time and time again. His gigantic body trembled as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. But as he attacked, Qin Wentian actually closed his eyes, using his perception to sense everything and continue to fight. He knew that this couldn't continue on. Right now, although he could control some of Yo Huang's abilities, the attacks he unleashed were still stronger than before. Although he could borrow the power of the constellations in the sky to strengthen his attacks by countless times, it was useless. If he didn't comprehend deeper and allow his Tao to transform, breaking the Tao of his opponent, there would be no hope for him to win this battle. What should he do exactly to break the Tao of his opponent? If he simply attacked the body of the God King of the Western Paradise, even if he won in the end, the entire supreme ancient immortal realms would be buried together with him. Chapter 2037. Although Qin Wentian's eyes were closed, he could clearly sense everything in the starry space. The Buddhas and devils all rushed over. It was like the emotionless heavenly Tao wanted to kill him. In Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness, lotus flowers kept appearing in his soul. On the lotus throne, there was a Buddha body and a devil body. The Buddha body was incomparably pure and holy. It stared at Qin Wentian. Good and evil have their own paths. Lay down the butcher's knife and you can save the lives of the people. Why not be stubborn? Within his body, Qin Wentian's shadow appeared. He coldly stared at the Buddha body and coldly spoke. If good and evil have their own paths, you should go to hell. If you become me, from now on, we will control the heavens together. The supreme ancient immortal realms will submit to us. We will be one. There's no need to care. At this moment, the devil body appeared, bewitching Qin Wentian's heart, causing Qin Wentian to give up resisting. The Buddhas and devils alternated, unceasingly affecting Qin Wentian. Outside, there were still many powerful attacks rushing over, wanting to destroy him. The God King of the Western Paradise controlled the power of the constellations in the sky, borrowing the fate of the people in the world to fight. He was an invincible existence, comprehending the myriad of laws in the world. How difficult was it to kill him? Let alone killing the lives of the people in the world. There seemed to be no Tao that could accomplish this. Yu Huang, what should I do? Qin Wentian sensed the boundless starry space, the 9 heavenly layers. Yu Huang's figure seemed to still be there. The boundless astral rivers were so beautiful and majestic, like a beautiful painting. It was like he could see Yu Huang's smile, waiting for him in the painting. At this moment, Qin Wentian's heart grew even more resolute. Back then, God King Shi almost transcended and controlled the 9 heavenly layers, creating the heaven vault and enveloping the astral rivers. Even after he died, he still transformed into a tiny astral being, creating a starry world in his sea of consciousness. What realm was this? God King Shi dared to seek transcendence. Why wouldn't he dare? Just give up, just give up. Countless voices rang out in Qin Wentian's soul, telling him to give up resisting. Qin Wentian's eyes abruptly opened. He inclined his head and stared at the sky. It was like he could see the Grim Reaper, Yu Huang and Little Yi. Why did the heavenly Tao want them to die? Why did the evil cultivators control the heavenly Tao? Since the heavenly Tao is heartless, I will change the heavens. Qin Wentian roared in rage, causing the 9 heavenly layers to tremble. Everyone in the supreme ancient immortal realms felt their hearts pounding. The heavenly Tao is heartless, so I will change the heavens. What kind of ambition is this? However, could he do it? The starlight of the heavens descended upon Qin Wentian. He sensed the Tao of the heavens, and it evolved in the starry sky in his mind. Within it, there seemed to be the power of the heavenly Tao brewing and flowing into his body. This was something God King Shi failed to do back then. Now he was prepared to try it. Since there was no hope, he might as well give it his all. For the sake of slaying the evil cultivators, he would have no regrets even if he died. Qin Wentian's body expanded. His body was originally already incomparably gigantic. If he continued to expand, it was like he wanted to transform into the 9 heavenly layers. This scene was too terrifying. He continued to grow larger, wanting to occupy the entire 9 heavenly layers. The constellations in the 9 heavenly layers were all moved when they came into contact with him. What are you doing? The eyes of the God King of the Western Paradise involuntarily narrowed when he saw this scene. He stared at Qin Wentian. He didn't understand. What was Qin Wentian trying to do? Was he going to self-destruct? Was he going to destroy all lives? Senior brother Qin. Jun Mingchen's heart trembled violently. He stared in a daze at the gigantic figure of Qin Wentian. Wentian. Qin Yuanfeng also stared at Qin Wentian. No. Mo Qingqing frantically shook her head. She had a bad premonition. Everyone around her was staring at Qin Wentian with intense worry and sorrow in their eyes. The heavens have no Tao. He wants to change the heavens. The people of the supreme ancient immortal realms all held their breaths when they saw this scene in the starry space. Was there really no way for Qin Wentian to win this battle? Was there really no one who could stop the God King of the Western Paradise? Bang! A thunderous boom rang out. causing the entire supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. Regardless of which corner of the supreme ancient immortal realms one was in, everyone could feel this terrifying fluctuation. Qin Wentian's figure vanished. It was like his soul had dispersed. In the sky, boundless light suddenly lit up. It was the same as before, but there seemed to be some differences. The 9 heavenly layers had given birth to a new world. In the starry space, Qin Wentian's figure could no longer be seen. It was like he had vanished from this world. The God King of the Western Paradise inclined his head and stared at the sky. This was the first time he had no way to maintain his calmness. Intense waves rose up in his heart. He could sense that above the 9 heavenly layers, another world had appeared. Did he die? If he died, everything would be meaningless. There would only be one sky. The people of the world were staring at the sky, like they were waiting for something. Would he appear? Although the people of the world could sense how strong the God King of the Western Paradise was, they still hoped that Qin Wentian would win. The God King of the Western Paradise was a devil. He held the fate of the people of the world hostage. However, Qin Wentian didn't appear even after a long time. It was like he really didn't exist in the starry space. Arg! Mo Qingqing howled in pain. She felt so much pain that she wanted to die. Such pain, maybe only those around her could understand. Why? Why did she pay so much and endure so much? In the end, the ending was still like this. Was the heavenly Tao really so heartless? It was like the voice of the God King of the Western Paradise could be heard. In the air, a gigantic face appeared. At the instant this face appeared, the entire world turned silent. Mo Qingqing cried bitterly when she saw this scene. Right now, no one knew what happened. Most probably, only the God King of the Western Paradise knew a little. You actually succeeded. The God King of the Western Paradise inclined his head and stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian transformed his body into the Tao. In addition, he transformed the 9 heavenly layers into worlds. Heavenly deities could all create their own heavenly Tao worlds. However, who could create worlds of the 9 heavenly layers? Creating the Taos of the 9 heavenly layers. Just like what Qin Wentian said, the heavenly Taos were heartless. He wanted to change this piece of sky. Right now there were 2 heavenly layers, 2 astral rivers. This was the 9 heavenly layers. It was also Qin Wentian's world. Qin Wentian had indeed succeeded. What God King she didn't manage to do he did. His path was even further compared to the past God King she. His eyes stared at the God King of the Western Paradise, flickering with an incomparably intense killing intent. At this moment, a cold smile appeared on the face of the God King of the Western Paradise. He stared at the face in the sky and spoke. So what if you succeeded? You can control a piece of the heavenly layers. I'm the same as well. In addition, I control the fate of the people of the world. How can you kill me? Gods and devils of the heavenly layers, kill. The God King of the Western Paradise roared in rage. Countless gods, devils, Buddhas and demons appeared, rushing towards the piece of sky created by Qin Wentian, wanting to destroy it. Qin Wentian stared at the gods and devils of the heavenly layers. A moment later, boundless calamity light descended from the starry space. Within this calamity light, there was Buddhic light and devil light. They were either incomparably holy or exterminating. These beams of light landed on the gods and devils of the heavenly layers. In an instant, a majestic scene appeared in the starry space. The gods and devils of the heavenly layers were all cleansed and killed by the beams of light. This was the grand heavenly Tao. Qin Wentian was now the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. This piece of sky was created by him. The God King of the Western Paradise was merely borrowing the power of the heavenly Tao. You created the Tao of the 9 heavenly layers. How can it contend against the true might of the heavenly Tao? The God King of the Western Paradise roared in rage. He opened his mouth and drew in a breath. The power of the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers gushed towards him. Even the 9 heavenly layers created by Qin Wentian were devoured by him. The sky trembled as the constellations shifted positions. All of a sudden, a gigantic face appeared in the sky, swallowing a constellation in a single gulp. Boundless astral light flowed towards the face that swallowed the constellations. Even time stopped flowing. After that, a world of darkness descended. It was like another space-time, swallowing the constellation, directly banishing it. Qin Wentian's cold eyes stared at the God King of the Western Paradise. At the instant his gaze landed, numerous divine eyes appeared in the sky, locking onto the God King of the Western Paradise. That area of space-time was sealed. Absolute stillness was completely controlled by Qin Wentian. The God King of the Western Paradise roared in rage, wanting to struggle free from the restraints of the heavenly Daos. Boom! His gigantic body trembled as he blasted out punch after punch, wanting to shatter the heavenly Daos. His movements became very slow. He wanted to use the Tao of Time to reverse everything, but he discovered that he couldn't do so. Even if I can't kill you, I have to suppress you forever. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Killing the God King of the Western Paradise was equivalent to exterminating all lives. I don't believe that your Tao of Time is able to seal me. The God King of the Western Paradise roared in rage. Since I can't seal you, I will create a space-time astral river then. Qin Wentian waved his hand as boundless astral light cascaded down. Each of the constellations contained boundless time, space, sealing, and other Tao arts. These boundless astral light cascaded down towards the location where the God King of the Western Paradise was at, transforming into a river that grew longer and longer, eventually becoming an astral river. Qin Wentian not only wanted to change this piece of sky, he also wanted to create an astral river. The God King of the Western Paradise's body was incomparably gigantic, able to traverse the astral river. But in the flowing astral river, his movements became extremely sluggish. Millions and millions of constellations continued to descend, landing within the astral river. If the God King of the Western Paradise's body was incomparably huge, he would make all the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers descend, forming a boundless astral river. He disregarded everything, wanting to suppress the God King of the Western Paradise forever. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.